This week on NWP, all sales on Freedom Slurry are final.
From now on, like your parents were, you are the secret force of pole position.
They're moving real fast, they're the only ones who can get there on time.
Okay, sis.
And never too far behind, they're always fighting crime.
Stop time, Dad. Ready when you are, Rhodey.
In the danger zone. Pretty soon they'll be off on a mission.
Hydrofoil mode, Rhodey. Hydrofoil engaged, Dad. What's behind
Wheels, hovercraft, quick!
What's behind this?
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 159. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am joined as always by Justin.
Hey, I'm here and today I'm ready to talk about our Resident Evil 3 nemeses. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing that could probably come up in a conversation today.
Why not?
And joining us for the first time, very happy to have the stars align for him to be on because scheduling is wonky. But we have Gabe from the Arcade Memories podcast, which is, we'll get into it later, but it is one of my favorite treats of a podcast that comes out when it comes out, but it's always fantastic. Gabe, thank you for being on.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. I'm excited for this. I think this is going to be a really good one.
I hope so.
Normally, when we have like a guest on for the first time, we'll do like this kind of like getting to know you thing. But honestly, I think that this particular episode is a good getting to know you episode.
Sure.
So hey guys, let's just jump right into it with stage select. And stage select this week is my pick. And this one can go all sorts of places. I wanted to know your greatest video game nemesis. Nemesi.
I don't know. It's Nemesis. It's Nemesis.
It is. Yes. I watched Mystery Man. Jeffrey Rush told me how to say it.
Right. I'm glad somebody did.
No, and you know, this can be, and I guess I probably should have like maybe gone to a little bit more detail in the last episode, but you know, definitely I was thinking more of like enemies in video games that really dog you to your dying day, but that it could also be just abstract things like, you know, a particular game itself or a particular console or, you know, like your little brother who wouldn't let you get on the Nintendo when you were a kid, you know, whatever it is. Like it was definitely intended to be a little bit looser, but yeah, we'll, I know Gabe, you've got quite a bit. So if you don't mind like jumping into the fray, like why don't we start off with you and we'll just we'll keep it casual. We'll just kind of loop around.
Sure. Well, I should say, I interpreted the question a little bit differently. I was
Great.
thinking of like characters in games that are the nemesis of the protagonist. So,
okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
in a way, I think
totally
it still fits. But, the very first one that I'm going to pick is Kuja from Final Fantasy IX.
Okay.
I think that when Final Fantasy IX first came out, I didn't like Kuja. I thought he was kind of lame. He's, full disclosure, I thought he was a bit effeminate and that bothered me as the main villain of a game at the time.
Sexy Sephiroth is kind of what he was going for.
Sure. But also, I don't know, I never really viewed him as like a legitimate villain. Also, the ending of that game kind of screws that up as well.
Yeah.
But somebody pointed out to me a long time ago that, so, you know, you always think of someone like Kefka from Final Fantasy VI, who, I guess, spoilers for the midpoint of Final Fantasy VI, Kefka succeeds at destroying the world, or more or less.
Yeah.
And so you would think, oh man, he's totally the best villain in a Final Fantasy game. He actually succeeded in destroying the world. Well, someone pointed out that Kuja actually kind of does one better. Number one, Kuja also destroys a world, not the world that the game takes place in, but he still destroys a world. But not only that, you never beat Kuja. Every time you fight Kuja in Final Fantasy IX, he wins. Either it is a scripted loss, or after you've done all of his hit points, a cutscene happens and he uses Ultima and kills you. And, I think that's, as far as making a good villain, I think that's a pretty big point there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's, I hadn't thought about that. I had replayed Final Fantasy IX a few years ago, along with the Square Roots podcast. And I remembered appreciating Kuja more that second time than the very first time. Cause the thing with me is, I tend to like play games right when they come out and then I don't go back to them. So even games like Final Fantasy that I love, like most of them I've only played once or twice.
Sure.
But yeah, and I didn't finish it on that playthrough, but it's Garland that ends up taking him out ultimately, isn't it?
Well, I mean, sort of like you still fight him as a final boss, but then after you beat him, he uses his big final thing and essentially kills you. But then your party members who weren't present in the fight give their life energy to save you. And then you fight Necron, who I'm shrugging because who even knows?
He's like the god of death or something.
Something like that.
I don't know. That game goes real Disc 3 crazy in a spectacular way. So
yeah.
Well, and I think with it harkening back to classic Final Fantasies, that's perfect because like those older Final Fantasies was like, I don't know, here's the thing you're going to fight. Like you never even heard about this until just now, but this is the actual bad guy.
A lot of RPGs do that.
Yeah. No, I like that one a lot. Yeah. Well, Justin, what have you got for us to start off?
I got a shorter one. I fucking hate Lakitu from the Super Mario Brothers. I fucking hate that guy. With his goddamn, he just throws spikies everywhere. And if you try to kill him, he throws another spiky, and then he hits you with the spiky while you're in the air. It's bullshit. I fucking hate it. And then if you kill him, he comes back. It's the worst. So what's the point? You just gotta dodge him the entire time. Like, Mario is a relaxing game, except for this one fucking guy who's just all up in your grill with his goddamn bullshit. I hate him. I don't like him. And he just adds this level of stress to every level he's in, and I hate him. And that's my first one. I fucking hate Lakitu.
See, I'm imagining that when you saw him in Mario 64 as a cameraman, it was just like that Kill Bill moment with like that musical sting and you just like everything goes red.
Yeah. It's like, or in like Mario Kart where he's like the like flag guy or whatever. Like,
wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man, that just brought up some bad memories of playing Mario Kart. Okay. I gotta stop now. This
Wait, with that?
That's it. I told you it was a short one.
Okay. No, yeah. Well, I've got a short one, but I'm going to actually leave it for the end. It's just kind of a throwout before we finish the segment. But I've got two, and they're actually kind of lengthy stories. And I think they're both stories that I've told on the show before, but years ago. And we've got a lot of new listeners now, and definitely not in the context of this. First nemesis that I have that I remember is Cleopatra, the final boss of Double Dragon 3, for the original Nintendo. I have never seen the ending of Double Dragon 3, because Cleopatra is a bunch of bullshit who does not seem to be beatable. Because my cousin David and I, we rented this game. We have like a week-long rental from like HEB, one of the local supermarkets here. And it's like a week-long rental, and he was here for some break. It was either spring break or summer or something like that. And, that's what we would do is we would rent a couple games for a week, and then that would just be our entertainment for the whole time. I've never been much for going outdoors, even as a kid. So I think we had rented a couple games, but Double Dragon 3 became the obsession because we could get to Cleopatra, and then she would summarily just like hand us our asses just in record time. And it became like this point of pride. We're like, no, we're going to beat this game before the end of the week. And we got so good at that game that we could, cause the way the Double Dragon 3 works is that you start off with Billy and Jimmy Lee, but then you recruit, 2 more characters, but those are the only lives that you have. So once a character dies, that's it. So essentially you only have up to 4 lives. If I remember correctly, or maybe you have multiple lives for Billy and Jimmy, but the other characters are 1 life each. Whatever it is, like we got to the point where we could get through that entire game without losing a life, and then we would just burn them all on Cleopatra, and we still couldn't beat her, right? I cannot impress upon you like how much this was getting under our skin. And then towards the end of the week, some family friends of my parents from back in Ohio actually came to visit, and I think my dad was off, my mom was at work, And they came in a little early, and my dad decided to take them sightseeing, like, without my mom, because that's a whole thing. But he would always tend to do stuff without my mom. So that would become an issue later. Like, that's a whole other story. But so he was like, oh no, well, I'll take you guys out. And he asked me and my cousin if we wanted to come along, and we were like, no, we're just gonna stay here and keep playing Double Dragon 3. It was that age where we were fine being on our own and everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we just stayed home and we kept plugging away at Double Dragon 3. Meanwhile, my dad gets into a hellacious car accident.
Oh.
Gets T-boned, and everybody was fine, but they ended up, and this is weird now that I think about it, but they towed the car back to the house.
Huh.
Even though it was total.
Right.
I mean, and it was also my mom's car, so she was not pleased. But my cousin and I went out to the garage and we looked at the car and we looked at the back seat and the way that the damage was done, and we were like, dude, one of us would have been sitting there.
Oof.
Double Dragon 3 saved our lives.
I was just going to say Double Dragon 3 saved your life. Yep.
So it's like, I can't really, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because on one hand, like, Cleopatra is like one of my greatest gaming shames that I'll never, I have since tried to play Double Dragon 3 as an adult, and I couldn't even get past the first stage. Like, I don't know how we got so good at it at the time, because that game is effing hard.
Oh, I believe it.
But at the same time, it's like, well, she did save either me or my cousin's life. And even though I don't talk to my cousin anymore, like, I'm glad that he's still alive, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I'm still alive. Yeah. For the most part, I'm glad that I'm alive.
That's good.
Well, let me say, I am glad that you are alive.
We're all
Gabe.
very glad.
Yeah, I will never forget that week and that game. And man, I should actually just like look up a YouTube Let's Play and just see what's past Cleopatra.
You should.
It's probably just a thank you for playing. That's how I think the other two games were.
You never know, though. You never know. It might be amazing.
It might be.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yes. A winner is you.
Congratulations.
Well, Gabe, what do you have for us next? That's probably also amazing.
Well, so I'm going to deviate from my list to come up with something that is a bit more in line with what you guys are saying. So I love Super Metroid. I think Super Metroid is one of I would say it is a perfect game, maybe not the best game in the world.
I knew we were going to get along.
I was going to say, you're speaking Julian's language right now.
And you know, I've beaten him many, many times. The particular boss / enemy that I'm about to mention isn't hard, but when I was a kid, it was. Back, for the longest time, I didn't have a Super Nintendo. I didn't have anything but like I think we had an NES and we had an Atari. But when the Super Nintendo came out, we would go to the mall and the Target store had one you could play. And my brother and I would fight over who got to play. At one point, we argued about it so much that my mom grounded us from ever going into the store at all for that summer. So I didn't get to play the game for a very, very long time. However, there was a boss in that game that until I had my own Super Nintendo and until I could play the game at my leisure, always seemed like the hardest thing in the world, and that is Crocomire. Now, for anybody who's not familiar with Super Metroid, there is I'm even hesitant to call it a boss, but it's this mini boss called Crocomire. It's this weird, like, squat, maybe crocodile looking thing that it takes up most of the screen. It's got like 4 eyes, I think you can see. They're like milky white, but this thing is terrifying. And it opens its mouth periodically and you can shoot it. When you shoot it in its mouth, you don't actually kill it through damage. Every time you hit it, you move it backwards a little bit, then it moves backwards a little bit more, then a little bit more. And for the longest time, I didn't know there was a trick to this. I would just try to shoot this thing and then eventually die. And it was the most terrifying thing in the world because like it just didn't feel like other bosses. Other bosses, I felt like I was doing damage. With this thing, I didn't. Well,
right.
So imagine my how happy I was when I finally managed to knock it back far enough that it steps on a bridge, the bridge breaks, it falls into the lava, and I'm like, whew, this, terrifying monster, I finally killed it. And then I run to the left side of the screen, and then its skeleton bursts out of the wall and does one last lunge, and then crumbles into a pile of bones. But for the longest time, I didn't know you could kill that boss. All my time playing it at the store, I thought you just go in that room, you shoot it, and then you die. And,
Yeah, that's the game.
so nowadays it's actually kind of one of my favorite bosses because it's really easy. It's real simple, but, that was not how I felt when I was a little kid.
Well, and what went through your head as a little kid when that skeleton came out? Because I remember being like just terrified when that came out.
I'm inclined to think I might have screamed, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back and playing it, later, because I always notice little details in Super Metroid when I go back. Even now, like I'll see little things, and you can actually see the bubbles.
Yep.
Like underneath you as it's like racing to like meet you up further ahead. And it's like, it's just so many cute, cool little details in that game that still impress me. And it's funny because when you said Super Metroid, that was instantly the boss that I thought of.
Sure.
Just because like, I would hazard that it might be the most memorable boss in the game.
Maybe. Some other ones I think come close, but I mean, I used it for this one, so I would agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. It's been a while since I played Super Metroid. I was actually just thinking about that the other day because I remember this one time as a kid, and this was just like out of nowhere. I just decided to play Super Metroid in one shot one night. Like it was like a Saturday night or something like that. And I didn't have school the next day. And I was just like, I'm just going to beat Super Metroid tonight. So yeah, I just started a new game. And then I think it was like 3.5 hours later, I was seeing the credits, and it was just like a very satisfying experience to me. It was never, I never knew about speed running or anything like that, but I definitely did get to the point of Super Metroid as a kid where I could get the best ending, pretty much without effort. I never did like a 100% best ending.
Sure.
But I definitely got pretty good at that game. Back in the time when I was able to just revisit games over and over and over.
Yeah.
I kind of miss those days.
I actually was pretty good at getting, 100% of the items and the best ending, for a while.
Nice.
Like back before the internet was really big, I had times where I thought to myself, I'm probably not, but I wonder if I'm the fastest person in the world. Then I discovered the Speed Demos archive, and I found out no.
Yeah.
No, there was, somebody had cut my time in half.
Yeah.
And it's gone down even further since then. So not even close, but for a little while I thought maybe I'm the best in the world.
It's always good to think that.
I was watching some of the portable Castlevania runs from Summer Games Done Quick, and I think it was Portrait of Ruin, where I was just flabbergasted, like the stuff that they were doing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even necessarily like glitchy stuff, but he managed, there was like some technique where you can double jump without actually learning double jump.
Oh.
By basically switching out the two characters, like hot swapping them real fast.
Sure.
It's really cool. Like I love that stuff. I would never get to the point where I could do it, but I love to watch it.
Right.
Right on.
Well, moving right along, Justin.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna go through one real quick and then one longer one, because they're both kind of from the same franchise at least. And I'm gonna start by saying I fucking hate Marlboros from Final Fantasy. I just hate all of them.
That was almost on my list.
They're the worst. Oh man. Bad Breath is just awful. I don't know. Like, okay. If there's one thing I hate in RPGs, it's goddamn status effects.
Yep.
And when you have one thing that just has one attack that is, hey, here's every status effect. Good luck. It's like, well,
yeah.
Guess I'm just gonna die now. And then,
well, let's paint a picture for anybody who might not have experienced the Malboros.
Yes. So the Malboro is a giant plant creature. He has the human teeth that are very sharp. He's very nightmarish looking, has little like tentacles everywhere. He shows up. It's a repeatable enemy. It's not even, this thing isn't even a boss. That's the worst part. If it was a boss, I think I could accept it. But it's a repeatable enemy, so you can run into this thing however many times, and you're just fucked every time. So it shows up, and it will cast this spell called Bad Breath, which will basically puts every status effect, confuse, poison, anything you can dream of.
Dark, sleep, silence.
Suddenly you're divorced, your kids left you. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I hate them. I hate their guts. Every time they show up, they're just bad. Like, I always love when I get, like, the one item that prevents status effects later on in the game, and you can go back and just own every Malboro with it.
Yeah.
But, oh, man. they're the worst up to that point.
I make it a point not to run from battles in RPGs because why would you? Because that's the whole point. Is like to level up. I run from every Malboro. I was going to say I have run from more Malboros than I've ever fought. And even then, sometimes they get you because when they cast Confuse, every now and then it'll catch one guy and they'll just hit one of your party members. And while you're running away, well, 2 of your guys are dead now because the other one's just overpowered and kills you. So. Fuck those guys. I hate them. And then from the same franchise, and this one is number one with a bullet on the Final Fantasy spectrum for me, and that's Emerald and Ruby Weapon. I'm going to group them together.
Sure.
Those two, do you know? Okay, so this is almost Batman-like to me because of how many hours of time I had to put in to beating these two people. Or they're not people. They're giant robot
things,
spirit things, whatever they are, hours among hours, because you have to get all your guys have to have mime materia, and you have to have Knights of the Round, which is a huge side quest in itself. At least this is how I always did it. And then you got to go in, you got to mime Knights of the Round, which is like a 20-minute animation. It's not that long, but it feels like it is. And you got to watch that over and over and over. And then sometimes little fuckers will hit you with a lucky shot, and they'll kill you off. Just out of nowhere, cause fuck you, and then you're dead, and you gotta start the whole process over again, and sit through Knights of the Round over and over again, and hope you get lucky, and you don't. And, oh god, the hours I spent in Medial just grinding to get materia up, and that's not a great place to grind. I learned that later on in life. But that's what I did, and it was terrible. And all you get in the end is you get what is it? You get master materia. That's it. That's
which would be great before the fight, not after the fight.
Exactly. But by that time, you're overpowered. You can beat anything in the game after you beat those guys.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But I still had to do it. And every time I play Final Fantasy VII from here on, I still have to do it. The game is not beaten until I beat those assholes. And two other things I hate about them. The first time I ever ran into Ruby Weapon, I was playing with my friend. He was playing the game. And, we were like, oh, what's that little red thing in the Gold Saucer Desert? What is that? And we flew close to it because we just wanted to get a better look. And then this thing just pops out of the ground and kills our whole party. And it was a very bad moment. And I hate him forever. And also, fucking Emerald just hovers in front of the Crash Galinka when you're trying to go there to do stuff. He just hangs out. He just hangs out in front of things. He's a fucking prick. He's an underwater asshole is what he is. He's like a dolphin.
Oh yeah, okay. I forgot about the dolphin thing.
Yeah, I don't like dolphins.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah. I think I fought Ruby and Emerald once, and then I did a whole bunch of grinding, just I'll just go level up a bunch, and then I came back and got annihilated again. It's okay, nope,
that does not work. No, you have to do very specific things to beat them, and it's a pain in the ass. But when you do finally beat them, I guess it feels good. Key phrase there, I guess it feels good. I mean, oh man.
Justin did the thing, but it didn't fill the void in his heart.
No, it never will. But still, like I said, every time I play it, I gotta beat them or else the game is not complete. I will not beat Sephiroth until those two are dead. It's just the thing.
Yeah, same here. I'm on the Switch version of Final Fantasy VII. I've gotten to that point. I've mastered just about every materia, but I still haven't fought him yet. I'm sure someday I will, but I will have to do it before I beat the game.
You don't need the underwater materia. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. It's a common, I remember reading this, clickbait list because that's the thing I do. I read this clickbait list about, hey, these are things you should know about Final Fantasy VII. It's like, hey, did you know if you get the underwater materia, it takes away the timer against Emerald Weapon? You're going to need all the time you can get. I'm like, no, you don't. 20 minutes is fine. You can beat him in 20 minutes. Yeah. I promise. Even with watching 20 minutes of Knights of the Round, it's
right.
But yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm behind on my current Final Fantasy VII playthrough. I need to get back into it. I'm actually a couple episodes behind on the no one can know about this podcast playthrough.
Yeah.
So got to catch up.
It's a great podcast.
Oh yeah, man, it's so good. I love those guys.
It is a good show.
I'm hoping to get them on too because they crack me up. But I can only imagine the hours of editing for one episode.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it feels nuts.
Well, my last big one, and then I've got like just like another little one is, and I've talked about this before, but I want to really get into it. This comes from Middle-earth Shadow of War. It actually is my nemesis because Shadow of War introduced the Nemesis system.
Yep.
Which is a system where it's actually really cool, like, because they explain it in the lore where your character, basically is able to resurrect because of things that happen to him. And so the orcs can kill you. And when they kill you, they actually rank up and level up. And there's this whole hierarchy that they can rise through the ranks. And, you know, eventually you're like, and the thing is that this is all organic in the game. So these guys are like just roaming the area and they can just show up anytime. And, you know, there's definitely missions where you're taking on specific ones, but they're all procedurally generated. So it's like it's amazing. I still am amazed at how well this works. And I'm surprised that nobody has tried to copy it yet, other than just the sequel to the game. But the first mission, like the very first mission that I played of Shadow of War, I'm doing fine. I'm doing stealth. I'm killing these guys. And then this orc, or Uruk, sorry, I don't know if it really matters. I always call them orcs, but they're called Uruks in the lore of the game. Named Zogdush, Ghoul Lover, just shows up out of nowhere. And, you know, when they show up, they're like, you know, oh, human. And, you know, there's this really cool, like, they introduce them. There's like they show like their name on the screen and they kind of like talk shit to you. And he was like, I want to say he was like 3 levels above me. And again, this is like the very beginning of the game. I've barely played it. And so he kicks my ass. He kills me almost instantly. And then he levels up. So he's not, so not only did he kill me and end my first mission, but he also got stronger from it. This continued through almost the entire game. Like, I would find him and I would kill him and then, he would come back and kill me and he'd level up. And the thing is that, they remember things that you've done. So if you, like, there would be times when, like, I'd be, like, almost done with the mission. I would see him and he'd, like, start to clash with me. I'd book it. I'd run away. And so then the next time I saw him, he would just, like, chide me for being a coward. And it's just, like, just constantly getting under my skin. And at one point, I think I stabbed him through the face. And so the next time I saw him, he had this, like, metal plate over one eye.
That's awesome.
And then another time later on, I set him on fire and then killed him. And so when I saw him again, he no longer had the plate over his eye, but he had bandages over his entire face. And he looked that way till the end of the game. And my review of the game on Pixelbit is actually just me telling the story of Zogdush because it was integral to, like, my enjoyment of the game. It's the reason why I gave it 5 stars. But this, as I like to say from Venture Brothers, this game of cat and also cat, just kept escalating through the entire game to the point, and so he eventually got to max level and was invulnerable to everything. So I could not actually hurt him until I exploited one of his fears. And I remember the time, like the last time that I actually, so there's a thing is like, if you take their head, then they're actually removed from the game completely. Like that's the only way that you can actually kill them for good. And it's kind of a random thing. But the last time that I fought him, well, we'll get to it. Last time in quotations, he was scared of Morgul flies and fire. And so I was able to, like, you know, get some flies to, like, drop next to him. And so that, you know, got him spooked enough to be exploited, you know, a little bit so he could take some damage. And then I think I was able to set him on fire. And then I fought him and got him down almost dead. And then he just started to run for the hills because, like, he was already, like, spooked from the flies and the fire and he was almost dead. And I chased that motherfucker halfway through Mordor to finally, like, just, like, take off his head. But then once he was gone from the game, like, it really impacted my enjoyment because I was like, Zogdush is gone. It's like Batman losing the Joker. It was like, what is my mission anymore? Like, I no longer have a reason to, like, do what I'm doing. But the game is so smart. In the final battle, the Nemesis, you know, and they're tracking everything. So the Nemesis that you have fought the most times in the game shows up one last time.
Okay.
And so in the final battle, it's this big charge towards, like, Sauron's fortress. And he comes out, like, in the vanguard and, like, clashes with me and he's like, something like, all the times, like, I never forgot you, or something like that. And it was like one final battle for the ages. And apparently, and this didn't work for me because I ended up playing the first game on PS4, second game on Xbox One. But if you have a completed save file, when you go to play the second game, your nemesis from that first game does show up for one battle in the sequel. And I was like, man, I wish that I could have fought Zogdouche one last time.
Yeah.
But the fact that I still remember that dude's name, this procedurally generated random character in a game that I played, 5 years ago. Yeah, he will always be my greatest video game nemesis.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Story time over. That's actually really all I've got. Gabe, I know you've got a few more, and Justin, I think you've got a little bit. So
yeah, I've got a few more that are still like narrative based, but I did just think of one that is more of what you guys have. So I love Final Fantasy Tactics. I think it is another great game. And
one of my favorites of all time.
There you go. Then I'm sure both of you will understand when I say chocobos.
Oh.
Particularly black chocobos.
Okay.
But all chocobos. Because, okay, there are some characters in the story that are really tough. You know, there's the Y-Graph fight and so on and so on.
That's what I was thinking.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That was the first thing that came to mind is Y-Graph. Oh, that guy.
But I've spent a heck of a lot more time farming or like grinding in that game than I have fighting that one fight.
Right.
And when you're grinding some levels and there are chocobos in that fight, you better kill those chocobos fast because, you know,
fucking Choco-Cure.
For anybody who has not played Final Fantasy Tactics, you gain experience not from finishing the fight, but from each of your actions taken in the fight. So it's actually it's in your best interest to prolong the fight by either, you know, killing all the enemies but one, or, you know, like turning them into a toad or something like that. And then while they're all indisposed, beating up on your own people or using a skill like accumulate or casting haste on yourself repeatedly or whatever. But if you leave a chocobo alive, you will regret it because the yellow chocobos will always manage to get away from you and then heal themselves. The black chocobos, if you surround them, they can fly away and then they can shoot freaking choco ball at you or whatever the crap that stupid attack is. And then the red ones are a little bit easier because they have less health, but they have Choco Meteor, which is even stronger.
Yeah, I remember Choco Meteor now that you mention it.
Yeah. Every time that I was like, oh, I'll kill everybody but this Chocobo, it'll be fine. I always regretted it. Like the attack that was going to take them down would miss and then they would get away, shoot me with a Choco Ball or heal themselves. And then before I know it, half my party's dead. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Choco-Cure also like an area of effect heal?
Yup.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah, it's not great.
It's great when they have it. It's not great when you have it.
Yeah. No, that is a compelling case. I was definitely going to say Y-Graph, but no,
Yeah.
That.
Also, I totally cheese the Y-Graph fight every time. Just use yell on yourself like 50 times and then you've got like 10 turns in a row. So.
Oh.
That's a strategy I never thought of as a child.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I didn't come up with it on my own, but once I found it out, I can't go back.
Right.
The Y-Graph fight is responsible for me forever keeping 3 save files for every RPG because
Same here.
That fight, it locks you in.
Yep.
And you can't back out to grind. And I was just not strong enough to beat him. And it was the only save file that I had. And that's like halfway through the game. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I'm starting over. And definitely going back, I knew much more. Like I was able to develop my characters much more efficiently. But But damn, yeah. And even like a second or third playthrough, it was still, it's always been an issue for me. And the last, I have the strategy guide somewhere, and I think it actually does say that it is harder than the final boss.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rio Vani's castle or whatever. Never forget. God, and like it's even like the first fight's annoying. I think I was reading about this, just kind of reading stuff a little bit earlier, and the first fight is like an escort mission, and the girl that you're supposed to protect or whatever keeps running towards these like two twin sisters or something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember the exact details. It's been a while since I played that game, but yeah, and like they just suicide themselves all the time.
It is very possible for you to lose that fight before you even get a turn.
Yeah, it's very possible because you have no control over that character.
Yeah.
Pain in the ass. Oh man. Well, I guess I'm up. So not the last thing, I guess. I have one more little like quick one. But the big one I want to talk about is kind of like, this is superhero villain type stuff. And that's, The Chosen from XCOM 2. The War of the Chosen expansion pack. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the show. So the War of the Chosen thing introduces these people called the Chosen. I'm saying the Chosen a lot. I should say it 10 more times. Anyway, so it introduces these guys, and what they are is they're these like enemies that you can't really kill. They're like bosses within XCOM, which is rare because XCOM doesn't really have very many bosses that I can think of off the top of my head. XCOM 2, if you've never played it, is a very stressful game. It's permadeath, kind of like Fire Emblem. So if you lose a guy, or it's actually more stressful than Fire Emblem permadeath wise, because if you, like, even when your top guy gets hurt, like they're out of the fight for days and you'll go into a tough fight or something and it's bad. So getting hurt in that game is a big deal. And these fucking assholes show up unannounced all the time. They're hard as hell. So there's an assassin character, there's a sniper character, and then there's one guy who kind of does like techno magic, I will describe it as. It's weird. He sends like little like hologram enemies after you. He's a pain in the ass. But they never go away. They never go away, Julian, and they're constantly on you. All the time. Like, you have to sit there. They're constantly thwarting your efforts at all points. You never know when they're going to show up. And and the efforts aren't even on the battlefield. Like, it's off the battlefield too. They're constantly like, hey, I'm going to fuck your ship up somehow so your research in this all goes away or something like that. It's little things like this. They're always messing with you. And then they show up in a mission, and they're not even like the mission objective. Like, you can kill them and it doesn't matter. They just, oh, well, I'm going to teleport away now. Come fight me later. And you're like, well, all my guys are almost dead, and hopefully I can make it to the end of this within the 2 turns I have left. This is great. This is real great. It's not great. It's not good. Those guys, like, I love XCOM. It is the most stressful game, but I love it. It's kind of why I like Fire Emblem type stuff too, but this is like Fire Emblem on another level, because like Fire Emblem, most of your shots hit. XCOM, most of your shots don't hit. And you are usually cussing at somebody, like when fucking Kitiana misses a goddamn assault rifle shot that she is right next to the guy and should hit and doesn't. Oh, it's infuriating. But anyway.
Yeah, see, I don't know if that would do it. Like, I don't know if I could handle that, because that was my problem with Valkyria Chronicles 4, was it just seemed like the data you're giving me is telling me that this should hit. And also, if it hits, like, it should kill this guy in one hit. And then it's like, either it misses or it hits and the guy's still alive. I'm like, whoa, then I guess none of this means anything. Like, none of this matters.
I'd have to play Valkyria Chronicles to know, like, for certain, but XCOM 2 is pretty good about its percentages, and they actually tell you they actually undershoot what the percentage is, so they'll give you an 80% chance when your percentage is like 90 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
They do it to add like this stress thing and like to make you go like, oh man, I got really lucky with that. Right. But like, they're like, man, that's a great game. But adding that DLC is just, it's crazy. And then like, eventually you go through all this stuff and you go through hell and high water to track these chosen down. And it's this really cool, like, epic dungeon crawling, I guess for XCOM's sake, it's a dungeon, and you go through their lair, and you finally beat them in this big boss fight. And when you do kill them, it's really nice because they don't show up anymore. But guess what? Then the next one shows up, and you got to deal with that one. So it almost never ends. But it's great. I like that. But at the same time, man, fuck those guys. They're fucking awful.
I have the first game on my Xbox One hard drive because I got it. It was like a Games with Gold. It's the 360 version. Mm-hmm. But I always hover over it. I'm like, is it time? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's something that I'm going to like, but I'm really curious. My boss at Game Fellas, he almost got a divorce from the first XCOM on PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Because that's literally all he was doing.
Right.
For like a couple months, like any bit of free time, he was just playing XCOM, and it became a problem.
Oh, it's an addicting game. It like I said, it has a lot of Fire Emblem trappings to me, where you're constantly like, okay, I'm gonna get this guy to do this thing, and it's gonna be great. I love that game. I think you should give the second one a shot. Like, if it's ever cheap, just to try it. Like, I'm not saying like pay full price or anything like that, but definitely, especially with War of the Chosen, just that level of stress that it adds is really fun to me. Like, people have said that that's what the game should have been the entire time, and I probably agree. There was like one DLC that they added called the Alien Hunters, and those guys were busted. Like, the Chosen are actually like easier than the Alien Hunters. When the Alien Hunter DLC guys would show up, like, it was impossible. Like, they were nuts. They could take an action for every action that you took, and it was like busted. Like, you were dead almost every time. It was not great, but I love that game. So yeah, I think you might like it. If you like Fire Emblem type stuff with like permadeath and stuff like that, you might get into that. Like, and it's kind of like one of those, it's almost like roguelike, where like you might screw up the first time you play it and like be like, oh, I know what I got to do for the next one, and and then you just go in. Cause I think I fucked my first playthrough up. I was like, yeah, I'm never getting this done. But
I have understood from from hearing people talk about it that it's a game where it's like, no, you're not going to beat this the first time you play it. And that's just, you factor that into the overall play time. Like, yeah, you might get like 10 hours in and then you've got to start over, but like that's just part of the game.
Yeah, at some point you'll realize that you screwed up, but it's kind of nice because you're like, okay, next time, now I know what I got to do. Now I know exactly what I got to aim for. And like, even still, like, even when you know exactly what to aim for, the game tends to throw you nice little curveballs to be like, oh, you think you know, but like, it's kind of cool. Like, I love that game.
I've never played XCOM, but I've played Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which from what I understand is like mechanically very similar, but it's pretty easy. So not quite the same problem.
I did like the mechanics of Mario and Rabbids, and I know that it was like heavily modeled after XCOM. So that I might dig a more serious, punishing version of that.
Yeah, I'd have to try Mario and Rabbids to really give you the full take on that one, but yeah, for sure, like, it's a good game. It's a good game, and like I said, the Chosen are assholes, but man, when you beat them, it's really nice. It feels real good.
Well, Gabe, what else do you have for us, sir?
So I'll just quickly read off the other ones I had. They were, it's like the characters in a series that are constantly hounding you and such. So I had like Virgil from Devil May Cry, Cain from Legacy of Kain, like the Soul Reaver series, even though looking back, I don't know if I would quite say he's a nemesis, especially after Soul Reaver. But, and then I had Bowser from the Super Mario Brothers series.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
And Ridley from Metroid. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love Bowser.
Yeah. I loved Super Mario RPG when like he joins your party and it's like it's the one time you're working together. I liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to play Bowser's Inside Story because I hear that's like the best of the Mario and Luigi games.
Okay.
Like, especially from like a writing standpoint. Like, it's supposed to be just like next level localization, like just like super funny and witty. And I think they had done a re-release of it on 3DS.
I think you're right.
Ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know I played Superstar Saga, and that was actually a pretty good game. I had a lot of fun with that. It was pretty short, if I remember right, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I remember the writing being pretty fun, and like the main bad guy, reminded me of Invader Zim, kind of like just the way they were written. So I liked it. It was pretty cool. I guess I have one last thing that I just want to say, and it's real quick. But fuck Jackie from Virtua Fighter and DOA. Just fuck that guy. Just hate his guts. I mean,
duly noted.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the little fucking flip kicks. Fuck that guy. Who does he think he is? Fuck him. All right. That's all.
Well, yeah, and my last little short one before we move on to listener comments is video game hardware, because as I was realizing in the last couple days, me and video game hardware, like, it doesn't mix well. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a huge collection of systems, and I've been, like, bleeding edge for many, many years, but if something can go wrong with a piece, with consoles specifically, I'm gonna have the one that the thing goes wrong with, usually multiple times.
Yeah, you have really bad luck with this, man.
It is legendary, because I was literally, because, I've come to the conclusion, it's like, dude, you're gonna go ahead and get the PS5 and the next Xbox, like, when they come out. Just don't even front. Like, you always say, no, I'm gonna wait, or I'm only gonna get one console. Like, no, you host a video game podcast. Like, what you're going to do. You may as well just pre-order them. But now I'm like, no, don't pre-order them, because you need to wait. You need to wait and see how things shake out, and then wait for the updated one that doesn't have the problems. Because if there's the problems, you will have them.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's just 10% of the consoles out there, you will get the 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very demoralizing.
I'm sorry for your losses, Julian. Your multiple losses.
Yeah, we'll get.
I know we will. I know we will.
Yeah, I was listening to you on a recent episode complaining about your issues with the Switch. And
yes.
I totally understand everything you're saying, but it's such a shame because I love my Switch. It's like the greatest thing in the world, but I definitely understand all the hardware issues. So I can't, don't know what to say.
And even like, I was surprised I didn't get more pushback on that rant. Only one person really commented, but it's like, for me, it's like, even when it's doing what it's supposed to do, like, I'm like, but doesn't, I think really part of it, as I was thinking about it, it's not really the Switch's fault entirely. It's more of just cumulative of me just tired of Nintendo being behind for so long. Right. Because like, I have come to realize that I've regretted every Nintendo console purchase since the N64, except for the GameCube. But even the GameCube was like distant second as far as playtime for me in that time period. But when I was playing, we'll talk about it more, but as I was playing Fire Emblem in the last couple weeks, like, like going from docked mode to portable mode, which I had not really done a lot of. I had always played it portable only, but here, because of the battery issues, I was like switching back and forth. It's like, all right, that is pretty neat, because it's like an instantaneous, like I just plug this thing in and there's my guy on the screen, just take these Joy-Cons off and go to town.
Right.
That stuff is neat, but then when it's on the TV, it looks like junk. And then when it's on the portable screen, like the type is so tiny. The people that I've heard this week just like bending over backwards to talk about how impressive Witcher 3 is on the Switch. And I'm like, do you have eyes? Like, I'm looking at this and like, oh, this must be how Justin sees the world.
Yeah, probably.
Low blow, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say it'll probably look fine to me because everything looks the same, so.
I have a pretty high tolerance for things looking poor, so.
Yeah, I admit I am an admitted, graphic snob, so there's definitely that element of it too. But yeah,
it's a console made for like Nintendo made things. Like Nintendo always uses it the best for the most part, and everybody else kind of adapts their stuff to it, which is weird, but it's just what happens. And another aspect that we kind of didn't mention during that rant that a lot of people like it, especially in like games media, is those people fly around a lot, and having that on the go, it would be really nice. So like I know, like even when I would take like short trips to like my sister's house, like and taking my Switch would be really nice because I didn't have to haul like a giant laptop or anything. It was just, hey, Nintendo Switch, cool, just play the stuff. And my niece liked it, and that was pretty nice. So
yeah, but I mean, because I never really worry about trying to plug anything in on a plane, so I just use with the battery.
Right.
And so even before stuff happened since the last episode, I had already decided, because I'm actually flying somewhere next week.
Oh.
I had already decided, no, I'm taking the 3DS. Like, because I can rely on the 3DS. Like, I know that if I charge it before the trip, it will last me the whole trip, and I'm good to go. Like, if I take the Switch, it might not even make it through, like, halfway, through the flight.
Yeah.
And then I'll just be like, well, I twiddle my thumbs for the next hour and a half, I guess.
I'm always, like, constantly plugging in handheld consoles. Like, I'm just, like, seeking outlets out wherever I go. Like, I don't, for whatever reason, I just don't trust batteries. Justin Ham doesn't trust batteries.
Julian Titus doesn't now, but that's for later.
Yeah.
We should move on to pixelbit.com.
All right.
Where we didn't get a ton this time, but we got a few. I think I will take the first one from Stan Andreas, who says, my video game nemesis is EA. Wait, that's not what you meant, right? Okay, my nemesis is those giant fish in World 3 of Super Mario Bros. 3, the ones that can eat Mario instantly no matter how powered up he is. I freaking hate those things and will often run out the clock shooting them with fireballs.
There you go.
Those fish are assholes, but I think all fish are assholes, and especially video game fish are assholes. Like, think about it. All video game fish are assholes. Just think about it. They all kill you in some way. Almost every single one of them. Okay, there's probably a few that don't, but let's not think about those. Let's just think about me being right here.
Okay. That's, I think that's how the political system works right now.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Yeah. You're good. But honestly, San Andreas, like, yeah, the EA can be your nemesis. That's fine.
That totally
too.
checks out. Yeah.
I think I am past my EA defending time. There was a time when I would definitely go to bat for them because they were doing some stuff that I really enjoyed. But
yeah, for sure.
That is a long time in the past now.
They're every single time you're just like, oh God, how'd they screw this one up now?
Yeah.
Like when you have to like tweet out every single time, like, hey, this game does not have loot boxes. We promise, guys, every single time. Something is probably wrong. Just saying.
I saw a great, there's that website, thehardtimes.net, which is sort of like the Onion for video games.
So good. I love it.
And there was a headline, I think, that I saw on Twitter where it said something like, BioWare employees surprised to hear that they still are employed by EA or something like, it was something like that. Like,
yeah.
Because it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm shocked they haven't. Yeah, everybody thought Anthem would be the big one or would be the telling of that company. Like, if Anthem failed, they would go down, but they're still alive and kicking, I guess. So, well, then again, they pulled the ultimate move of, hey, reveal Dragon Age 4, and now we have to make this game.
I thought Anthem was a make it or break it, but I think it's Dragon Age.
It's got to be Dragon Age. Yeah.
And even though I didn't like Inquisition, it needs to, like, Inquisition was very successful, so I'm hoping that it's at least as successful as that.
Then again, maybe EA is like aware that, hey, if we get rid of BioWare, it's gonna look really fucking bad for us. So
I don't think they're that self-aware, Justin.
I mean, you could be right. But I mean, they're aware of the loot box thing. Maybe they are aware that, like, hey, this is our reputation. We need to do something to kind of change that if we want to have a future of getting companies. I don't know, man. It's EA.
I wrote an article a few years ago on Pixelbit about it, and there are definitely things that I think that I could do to, like, really build some goodwill for EA again. That would actually, like, make them some money too. But I am far removed from that world.
I don't blame you.
Well, Justin, I see that Superstep made an initial comment, but then he did do a stage select after that. So why don't you take that one?
All right. Superstep says his number one has a link here to what is the Triclops, I believe. You can look that up on pixelbit.com if you would like. Then he says, Triclops in Metroid Prime are not hard to dispose of, but damn, they're annoying. Good for you, buddy. You caught me in a ball, but put me down, please. No. Don't put me in your buddy's mouth. Put me down, you guys. Hey, stop it. This is making this take so much longer. Why do you exist? You're not challenging, so you must only exist to irritate me, like some sort of gaming cockroach. And yeah, that does sound terrible.
Yeah.
I looked at the picture and it triggers a dim memory, but it's
Right.
been so long since I played Metroid Prime that I can't quite.
Yeah, just
Picture it.
any enemy that doesn't outright kill you is a problem. Just put it like that.
And
like,
anything
just-
that grabs you and then you just can't do anything for a few seconds is the
Yes.
worst.
Oh, it's the
Yeah.
worst.
Or slows you down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there was I think there was an enemy. Oh yeah, there were a few enemies in Bloodstained Ritual of the Night where they would hit you with a slow, and it's like,
Oh, yes.
God.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, man. Then his number 2, he says, turn-based combat. I hate it. And, agree to disagree there, bud.
I
I'm
really
sorry,
like turn-based combat.
I do too.
I do too, and I was going to take umbrage with this comment, but I will say, playing through Final Fantasy VII again, that it could be a little faster.
Sure.
And I'm not saying like, I don't like the speed up modes that they've added in these remasters of the Final Fantasy games, because those are bonkers to me. Like that, I turned it on for Final Fantasy VII for like a split second and I almost died because like the enemies were like moving so quickly. But I remembered those games playing faster than that.
Yeah.
Now I don't know about Super Step's feelings on like just straight up like turn based, like not an active time battle thing, because I find those to be like very, strategic.
Yeah.
Now the only problem is there, you can get into a situation in a lot of older RPGs, and that's why I like the newer ones that do turn based, like Dragon Quest XI or Octopath Traveler or Bravely Default, where there's actually like a lot of depth to that, because those older games, like, to be fair, like you can get into a situation where you're just like tapping on attack every turn for every single character.
Yeah.
Right. It's not an important fight. It's not a boss fight.
Yeah, those are bad.
Yeah. Even your mages just fight. And it's like, okay, so technically I'm just hammering on the A button here for fights. And it's like, okay, I see that. But, more modern games, I think, have really taken that turn-based element and really expanded on them in really cool ways, where it's like, no, I'm going to have to sit and think about this next move before I really commit.
Yeah.
And that, I like that stuff.
I love that kind of stuff. Like, anything that makes me think about stuff. Like you mentioned Octopath Traveler, that was a really good shout there, because you had to think about like every little action that you did and how it built up and how you had your character built and all that stuff. I really liked that. And also, like, I mean, hell, even Fire Emblem, like, that's turn-based, and like you got to think before you act. And hell, we were talking about XCOM. That's turn-based. I love that stuff. Because, it's, if you put a guy in the wrong place, well, he's dead now. So deal with that. Like, it's different, but I mean, Super Step is a Crush 40 fan. I get it. Bam. Then Super Step says for his number 3, Daisaku Kuze from Yakuza 0. This one I actually enjoy fighting quite a bit. Me too. But damn, he's like the Monty Python and the Holy Grail Black Knight of Yakuza villains. The guy just does not quit. I'm pretty sure the real reason for Kiryu's no-kill policy is that he thinks it'll just lead to Kuze hounding him even more, but from the grave and with even more vengeful motivation. He figures Kuze can at least live with the small victory of Kiryu never finishing the job, cause if Kuze was a ghost killed by Kiryu, he'd be the only person Kiryu ever fought again, saying, "Death 'tis but a scratch." And yeah, Daisuke Kuze was awesome. Like, this character was the shit. Like, especially like they show up at the end of, I don't know, it's not the end. They show up at one of the fights on like a motorcycle with a pipe in the sewer. Like, that guy.
I had to look him up, but
yeah.
he is the first major Yakuza boss that you fight in Yakuza 0. And yeah, it seems
he's fantastic.
like it kind of reminds me of Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, when there's that like female assassin.
Yes.
And he just like it ends with him just saying, "Why won't you die?" Because that's the Kuze fight. It just keeps going and going and going, and he just keeps on getting back up.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much.
Masked crusaders working overtime, fighting crime. Secret raiders who will neutralize soon as they arrive. The Tracker's gonna leave a mission, and Spectrum's got the supervision. Masked is the mighty power.
So, Gabe, why don't you take the next comment? We have Pixelbit staff writer Jamie Alston.
Sure. Jamie says, for stage select number 1, enemies that float in a sine wave pattern in 2D platformers, like the Medusa heads in Castlevania, for instance. It's really annoying, especially if your character gets knocked back from enemy contact. Definitely.
Medusa heads were on my short list.
Yeah.
It was like Medusa head and also the sun from Mario 3 was in there.
I thought about that one too.
Yeah. Which isn't really, I mean, you can't do anything to the sun.
No.
But
unless you have a
it
star.
can still be a nemesis.
If you have a star,
Oh,
can you
okay.
kill
The
it?
star does get him. Yep.
And then Jamie says for number 2, the bosses in stages 2 and 4 of Streets of Rage 1, as well as the twin sub-bosses who were palette swaps of Blaze. All of these characters are hard to hit with conventional punches and kicks, but they can effortlessly make short work of you, especially those infernal Blaze twins.
I definitely remember the Blaze twins, and they were really annoying. I remember fighting them. Like, I have vague memories of getting that far in that game. It's been years and years. God, I was probably like 8 years old when I played Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are hard as hell. So I totally get it.
It's been a long time since I played Streets of Rage 1, but I can't imagine either of them are as annoying as the Rocket Pack guy from Streets of Rage 2.
Oh God, he's bad too. Yeah. Oh man.
Nope. Then number 3 is the license tests in the Gran Turismo series. I can accept that they put it in the first game, but did we need it for 5 additional sequels? No. No, we did not. Joke's on them, though. I game sharked my way past the license tests for GT 1, 2, and 3. I have learned absolutely nothing. Ha ha ha.
Oh man.
I don't think I ever actually, because I got Gran Turismo 1 as a graduation present from one of my friends. And I don't think I ever actually passed the license. Like I really didn't get to experience that game at all.
I may be the only person who did pass the license tests, and I can confirm that they were fucking terrible. So I think they were like trying to teach you like actual driving stuff, if I remember right, which is not what you should be doing in a video game. Like, it's bad.
Yeah. I never played any of the Gran Turismos, but I played Burnout Paradise, and I feel like they had something similar, but that wasn't teaching you actual skills. That was just,
I was gonna say,
win this
no.
race.
Yeah, and Burnout is just so damn fun that it's fine. Like, Gran Turismo is such a slavish,
Yes.
like, attention to detail for, like, car nuts that I understand, like, where that fits, but I definitely like my racing games, like, way more arcadey.
Yeah.
It's the reason why, you know, I have gone with Saints Row versus GTA as far as, like, that split, because it seems like most people chose sides, and for me, it's like, yeah, I just don't like driving cars in Grand Theft Auto anymore, and I just love, like, making a hairpin turn on Saints Row because, you know, because I can. It's like,
Right.
that's way more fun to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, this was trying to teach like real driving stuff. Like, maybe if you had a steering wheel, but even then, like, I don't think any of those arcade steering wheels were that great. Like, but I could be
I'm
wrong.
a good driver, but you
Right.
give me a steering wheel on a video game and I
no.
can't even stay on the road.
Yeah.
There's no like real sense of control because you don't feel like the weight of what you're doing. If that makes sense. It's hard to explain like why a steering wheel in a video game is hard to actually control like an actual car. But yeah, it's weird, and I'm in agreement. I can't remember how many of fucking these games had that. Maybe, did all of them have the license test? I'm guessing they did because they shot for
That's
realism
what Jamie
so
said,
hard.
yeah.
Well,
I had not Game Fells, but a game store that I worked at a few years later. I had some people come in and they bought Gran Turismo 2 for PlayStation 2. They were like real nostalgic for Gran Turismo. And then they came back in the next day and bought 3, 4, and 5 for PlayStation 2 also. And I was like, seems a bit redundant. No, like, maybe
liked-
just buy the most recent one. That should do you good.
they liked that one so much that they just bought all the rest of them. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I was glad to make the sale. I was just like,
yeah.
all right, like, I don't, this seems like a weird decision, but, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I will take the next one from Bookie. He has a lengthy comment, but I will let y'all read that over at pixelbit.com if you like. But he says, since I'm focused on Castlevania now, and I've been thinking about it anyway between Bloodstained and the upcoming Halloween season, I'll share my 2 big nemeses from the original series. I'm fairly okay at Castlevania, but I've never done a no-death run, and it's for one simple reason. Stage 10. Right after the mummies, you literally drop into a weird underground cave area where you have to jump between floating platforms above what's soon to be your watery grave. While doing so, a constant stream of fishmen jump up from the depths. And even though those are easy to deal with, they're set under candles, I believe, at least in the first loop. You have to deal with bats at the same time, which aren't quite on a straightforward pattern, unless you literally do speedrunning pattern manipulation tricks. Doesn't matter how much I prepare for it, something always goes wrong on that level. Even if I get through it perfectly, I'll lose my sub-weapon to a semi-random drop and eat it on a Frank. Medusa heads have nothing on this. Really, look how they spawn. You'll literally never get hit if you're scrolling, and if you're stopped, they're easy to see safe stones. Yeah, I've never been able to actually. They just get me every time. Like, I'm real bad about it. Like every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I know how this is going to go, and I dodge them, and then I get hit by the next one.
Yeah,
I'm real terrible at it. He continues. Remember those areas in Zelda 2 with the falling blocks you have to deal with? Well, Castlevania 3 Stage 7B makes that look like total child's play. You have to literally scroll up this long vertical shaft by jumping from block to block as they fall from the sky and create steps. It's agonizingly slow, and death means you have to do it all over again from the beginning. I like to do Trevor-only runs, which means I can't just skip this part by turning into a bat. And depending on your partner, you might not even be able to, even on a normal run. On top of that, afterwards is a pretty difficult section and a deceptively hard boss, made harder in the US version. It's so long that if you dally just a little bit on the stage, you'll often run the timer out, even if you complete the block falling section well. I hardly ever die there anymore, but it's still such a pain. All right, Justin, you are not Bookie.
No, I was going to say Boogie sounds real good at Castlevania, and
Bookie's fucking badass at video games.
Yeah,
and that is not you.
No, yeah, no. I'm glad we cleared this up finally.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember reading this and being like, I hope that people don't think this is me for real, because like I wish I was that cool. Jesus.
Yeah. Like Bookie has kind of like alluded to like how good he is at video games in the past, but this is just like, oh, okay. No, that.
Yep. We bow
we stand in awe.
Yeah, we bow to you, sir.
Yes. Well, there's a real quick one, Justin, from Transmet 2033, as is his tradition.
Oh, man, I like this one for some reason.
That's a good one.
The controls in Dead Space's asteroid shooter section. Just take that. Controls in Dead Space's asteroid shooter section. That's all I got to say about that.
Dude, so I've been playing around with the idea of playing through Dead Space 1, 2, and 3 for like Halloween month, because I always get real spoopy around that time of year. But that one comment has me rethinking it, because I don't want to do that again, man.
I don't even remember that section. Like, I watched that game, but because obviously I'm not playing it.
It's super stressful because the integrity of the ship is at stake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the controls are not good, and it feels like you're just being set up for failure.
Yeah.
So,
I've gotten all the trophies in that game, so I can attest that part sucks.
Yeah. It sounds bad.
Yeah.
It sounds quite
bad. Because you have to do it like without a single one getting through or something, I think is one of the trophies. It's pretty bad.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I had fired it up on Xbox One like a few months ago just for, cause I was like, I just want to see if this game holds up. Mm-hmm. And it does. It's so really good. But I was like, oh, maybe I should just like play through it again on like the hardest difficulty and get all the trophies. And I was like, yeah, no. Well, Gabe, why don't you take, this next one? It's another quick one from Xrian.
Yep. So Xrian says, the square Tetris block. Why do you hate me? Every damn time I'm up to my neck in blocks and you're the last thing I want, you show up. Sometimes twice in a row. You're not needed here. Get out. Now, personally, I never mind the square ones. I actually just had to do a quick Google search to see what the different ones are called, because I don't want to, I don't know. Anyway, these S and Z blocks are actually the ones that I don't like. The ones that are just, I'm doing a hand motion here, but that doesn't help anybody.
They're kind of offset.
Yeah. Those ones always come at the wrong times for me.
Yeah, they look like a lightning bolt.
I always have trouble figuring out like where to fit them, and I know like real good players can like do that thing where they like kind of spin them into like one little hole, and that type of thing. But I can't.
I'm not that good.
Yeah, my most hated block is actually the L-shaped ones.
Okay,
really?
Yes, for a weird reason. Because I'm always like setting up like for a perfect Tetris or whatever, like with the line. And then I'll get like all the way up, and I'm just like, okay, well, I gotta clear some of this stuff out. And then my Tetris OCD kicks in, and I have to put the L shape where the line should go. So now it doesn't go all the way down, so it bothers me. It just haunts me every time. It's a really weird Tetris OCD thing, and that's all it is. But it bothers me, and I don't like it.
Well, Justin, we have only 2 on Twitter, and they're both kind of lengthy. So do you want Jeff S. or do you want Blaine Fea?
I'll take either one. I'll take Jeff S.
Okay, well, why don't you take Jeff S.? He is on Twitter at Jestoff.
All right. Jeff says, the Boost Guardian from Metroid Prime 2. The best Metroid game, I said it, has the worst boss, the Boost Guardian, being a boss that you need to fight in a morph ball only inside the deadly Phazon storms. On top of that, he hits like a truck. I don't know how many times I've died to this monster, but it's too many.
Ooh, that would make Super Stab just like kind of twitch a little bit. Like,
yeah. That sounds awful. I'm sorry that you had to do that.
I loved Metroid Prime so much, and then I could not care less for Metroid Prime 2 and 3. I didn't even touch them. Mm-hmm. Like, I saw like the screenshots in the magazine, like previews for Metroid Prime 2, and I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I think I did this already.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember them looking very samey. Like, I never really played through those because I didn't have a GameCube, and Metroid Prime series looked like a first-person shooter to me. Mm-hmm. So I never was too interested in it. And like they looked a lot alike, but I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, I will say that if that rumored Metroid Prime collection comes out for Switch, Justin, I highly recommend picking it up, at least to play the first game, because, it's definitely more of a Metroid game than you probably think it is.
Yeah. I'll have to give that a shot sometime.
Yeah, I love Metroid Prime 1. I never played 2, and I didn't like 3.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people where they're like, they just kind of skipped them. I know they ultimately did pretty well, but I don't know. And it's weird because like, the Halo games are kind of samey, and like a lot of games, sequels are like kind of samey, but there was something about like the look of Metroid Prime 2 and 3 to me where I was like, well, but I did that. Like, I don't know. It's so strange. I don't know why I can't reconcile that in my head, because I've played plenty of like game sequels where it's like, this is really just the same game with like new levels. Well, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here first. Nintendo still hates Metroid. They still hate it. Yeah. And they want you to hate it too.
Yes.
Number 2 from Jeff S is, in the Dark Souls 2 DLC, you have one of my favorite fights. A well-executed and epic fight against Sin with an H. the slumbering dragon. It made the DLC worth it for that fight alone. But if you want to hate the DLC, fight the optional bosses known to the DS community as the Gank Squad. Guess what? They do. High HP, high armor, incredible speed. They got it all, and they'll show you again and again and again. You Dark Souls kids are cray. Fucking cray. Oh, man. Gank? Why are they called the Gank Squad? Just because they'll gank your ass?
Well,
is that what it is?
So you walk into the room and suddenly there's 3 of them, I think. Okay. 3 or 4. It's been a long time. And they are statted out like they are another player. So like there's those like 3.
Okay.
It's like a PvP battle essentially, but like an entire team of them that are just standing there waiting for you to walk into the room.
Oh, Gang Squad up. I got it. All right. Okay.
And so I'm taking, they're not a boss. They're just like regular enemies.
I mean, it is a boss. Like they have health bars. Like it is a boss room. Okay. But the boss is 3 enemies that are like, they are player models with armor sets that the player can get and everything. And it's just a tough fight. Like I've done it, and I've done it solo, but the whole time I'm running away. And then as soon as one of them catches up to me, I get 1 attack in, then I run to the other side of the room, 1 attack, run to the other side of the room. It is not elegant at all.
Gabe?
Yeah.
Are you Bookie? Because like you've just been kind of like casually like just like, yeah, like I'm really badass at all of these games. I am very impressed.
I don't think so. But I don't know.
It remains a mystery.
Yeah.
It's a secret to everybody.
It is indeed. I mean, we thought it was Angelo Grant, but I don't even know if he's that good at video games.
No, Angelo, he's good at platformers.
He's very
if we're
good at
talking
platformers, right?
Yeah, but yeah, well,
I don't know, man.
no, yeah, not. He likes his Castlevania, but he doesn't like it that much. So
Yeah, that's true.
It's not
That's
Angelo
true.
either.
That's true, man.
world
We're
may never
narrowing
know.
it. We're narrowing it down.
See,
We're narrowing it down.
I like Castlevania, but I don't like the first few Castlevanias.
That's fair.
Okay, confirmed. You're not Boogie. We got it. All right, number 3 from Jeff S. Bonetail in Paper Mario. The 1,000-year door crushed me as a kid. I had fought my way through the pit of 100 trials for hours just to come across another dragon fight. But this one was different. He was actually tough and had the damage output to prove it. I couldn't win, and I was distraught. It took me another year to even attempt the dang thing, but in the end, I finally beat him. Never gonna try it again, though. Yeah, that sounds tedious and awful, and you are right to never do that again.
I just, as a matter of habit, avoid 100 of anything in video games.
Yeah.
And like, whenever there's like a trial tower or something like that, I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna keep on living my life.
Yep. Yep, that sounds right.
We, I don't think he's ever listened to the show, but one of the guys who follows me on Twitter is like really big into like the speedrun community. And, like he's one of those guys, like when I talked about like Devil May Cry, like he's one of those guys who's like, counting the frame data on the games and stuff like that. And,
does he do the Bloody Palace stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's what I was thinking about. It's like, oh yeah, he's the type of dude that's gonna like totally ace those like 100 level trials and stuff like that. It's like not
oh yeah,
for me.
the hardcore of that community, man, that the Bloody Palace is the game to them.
Yeah,
like, they play
right.
through the main thing, and that's what they're building towards. Like, it's crazy.
Do you mind if I take a couple minutes and complain about the Bloody Palace for a moment?
Oh, go for it.
I love the Devil May Cry games. And a while back, I picked up like maybe 5 or 10, maybe even 10 years ago, however long ago it came out. I got the Devil May Cry HD collection that had 1, 2, and 3 for the PS3. And I thought, cause I am usually like not a perfectionist, but like I usually try to get all the achievements and such. A completionist is what I meant to say. And so I thought, I'm going to get, cause I've played, I'd played the crap out of all 3 of those on the PS2. So I was like, I'm going to get all the trophies. It's going to be awesome. Devil May Cry 2, which is a terrible game. One of the trophies you have to get past, if I recall, floor 9,000. I think it's just 9,000. It might be 9,999. I don't remember. You have to get past that level of the Bloody Palace in order to get this trophy. Well, for anybody who hasn't done that before, that takes about 6 or 7 hours of uninterrupted play in order to do.
Yeah.
Just because
right.
You're going 100 floors at a time. Each floor takes, 10 minutes or something like that. And so I thought, okay, I've gotten all the other achievements in this game. I can do this. I'm just going to set aside, one day. I don't have to go to work that day. I'm just going to set aside a bunch of time. I'm going to go ahead and do this. It's not hard. It just takes forever. So I started it. After about 5 hours, an enemy spawned inside a wall and I was unable to kill them. Apparently this is a common problem.
No.
So I had no option but to quit. You can't save your progress or anything. I had to give up. But I was like, I'm not going to let this game beat me. So a few weeks later, I had another day off, set aside a block of time, and it happened to me again.
Oh, man.
And at that point, I decided I just won't get this trophy because I'm sorry. I'm not gonna spend another 5 or 6 hours or more in the hopes that the game doesn't glitch on me again.
Ugh. Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Capcom in particular got real evil about trophies and achievements right around that time.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember when I bought Mega Man 9, which I have never even been able to beat one boss on Mega Man 9. Like that game is so hard to me. And I'm good at Mega Man games, but I just could not. But there, like one of the achievements on there, I think you have to beat the game like 9 times in one day.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, I mean, maybe for like speedrunners, they'll do that in no time,
Sure.
but I'm like,
Right.
that is a whole day right there. That, you know, like,
Yeah.
that is okay.
Nah.
Let's see. Well, last but certainly not least, on Twitter, we have Blaine Faya on Twitter at Blaine Faya. Hope you are enjoying Twitter, sir, now that you are new member. And also, I just want to like really quickly say, like, you know, since we're like a smaller podcast and everything, like we actually will respond to your tweets. Like,
Oh, for sure.
you know, like I never try to tweet like some of my like bigger podcasts, like hosts that I listen to because there's just no point.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, yeah, we don't have anything better to do. So if you ever want to tweet at us or whatever, like, you know, like we'll
for sure.
we'll talk to you.
I ain't doing nothing.
Yeah. But Blaine says, for stage select, my number 3 is the Porcupuffer in Super Mario World. I love this Mario entry and can breeze through it, pretty easily, but these things kill me a sad amount of times for how much I've played this game, and they haunt me. My number 2 is the Brutes from the Halo series. Not because they are hard, but because they were such a letdown of an enemy that they single-handedly made me lose faith in the campaigns of the Halo series. Sad day. But my number 1 requires a little bit of backstory. It is Mr. Freeze from Arkham City. Oh, okay. Oh, he says, bear with me on this one. Okay. I'm here for it, Blaine, because he says, so I have a phobia of sharks. No idea where it came from, what with living in the middle of Minnesota, but such is life. My friends know this. So one night I stopped over in their dorm and they were playing this particular boss battle. I had played Arkham Asylum and loved it, so they let me have a go at it. Well, this stage requires you to walk slowly over a frozen body of water. They said they'd never seen what happens, when you fall through, and they said I should give it a go. Do you know what happens when you go through? A fucking shark eats you. Just comes right up and chomps on you, and it made me scream like a prepubescent little boy, and I peed myself a little. I gave them all a cussing out and a big old middle finger and proceeded to not sleep that night. I've never returned to the series, even though Arkham Asylum is one of my favorite games. They single-handedly destroyed this franchise for me, and I will never forgive Mr. Freeze or my friends for that. Hope this entry isn't too late, but if it is, I suppose I will. Actually, that is Penguin's lair, Blaine. So, I would say maybe go back and not do the Penguin stuff if you can, but just go fight the Mr. Freeze fight, because it is one of the best boss fights in boss fights. Yep. It is so good. But yeah, that shark bit is terrifying. I've talked about it before, but there's this YouTube series called Boundary Break, where the guy like kind of goes to looks in the edit files and really sees what's going on off screen. And it's pretty interesting to see what goes on with the shark, in the penguin area. I think if I remember correctly, like it literally, like it's not under the ice. Like it literally just appears out of nowhere. I could be wrong about that.
Interesting.
Or maybe it's not a fully rendered shark. Maybe that's what the deal is. Like there's only like half a shark in there, but yeah, just neat little things. Yeah. But I understand, Blaine. Yeah,
phobias are a big deal. Like that, I mean, there's a lot of like Skyrim mods and stuff, like just mods for games where like people mod out like spiders and stuff.
Oh yeah,
because they can't play the game. Like that's a huge thing. So you're not alone, Blaine. There's people out there that are scared of things, myself included. I'm scared of everything, so don't worry about it.
Well, that is a stage select, y'all. Thanks to everybody who commented. Woo. Justin, that means it's your turn.
Oh,
I hope you have something for us, because I didn't tell you that it was your turn, but you should have known by now.
You never tell me, but I'm usually pretty prepared. So the one I'm thinking of for this one, and this is a weird one. It is inspired by the many hours of Fire Emblem that I'm going to talk about later. And also another thing. Are you both aware that there is a game coming out called The King of Fighters for Girls?
No.
Oh.
Yes. What it is it is a visual novel dating simulator based on the King of Fighters franchise.
This sounds like your perfect game.
I can't wait to play it for the show. But this made me think, what other franchises would make good dating simulators, or what franchises would make the funnest dating simulators? So I want to know from people what franchises, if they could, they would make a dating simulator out of. Again, inspired by Fire Emblem. I think that's pretty topical right now. But I really want to know, and I think people will have fun with this. Go nuts.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they're like, Hatoful Boyfriend is a thing.
Yep.
So,
Hatoful Boyfriend sounds spectacular. I need to play that.
Excellent. Well, we will want those entries by 8:30 Central Time on September the 4th. That is the next time that we are recording. I'll be fresh back from vacation with stories to tell. And as always, you can go to pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 159. You can also go to Twitter and find us at NWPcast and DM us there. And as always, I mean, it's there if you want it. Nobody seems to, but you can go to facebook.com/nerdswithoutpants podcast and write something there. And, we'll actually probably have like a little party and play some music if somebody does something there, because
we'll play rhythm as a dancer.
Yes. All right. Well, that is it for stage select. So let's roll on into Consumption Junction. So, Gabe, I've actually been very pleased because, like, you have blown me away with your depth and breadth of video game acumen.
Thank you.
But you are the host and creator of the Arcade Memories podcast, and I wanted to talk about that before really anything else.
Sure.
Because one thing that I thought was fascinating about it, and I don't remember how we found each other. I don't remember if you found the show first and reached out to me, or I just happened to respond to you on Twitter when you were looking for stories.
I think it was actually, I posted about it in the Square Roots Facebook group.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you, in your response, you mentioned Nerds Without Pants. So I started listening to you around then.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'll let you tell the listeners about it, but one thing that I wanted to ask you that I found so fascinating, when you first started the show is that, you know, it says you're doing all these memories from people about arcades, but you said that you don't really have a lot of arcade memories. Like it wasn't really like a big thing for you. And that surprised me. And also I think it's an interesting tilt to the show because it's kind of like this archival look at a time period for people who maybe weren't there. So they didn't get to experience it like firsthand.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, I'm the host of the Arcade Memories podcast. As you said, I never really got to go to the arcade much when I was a little kid. I did occasionally, but I never had a lot of money to spend. So when I did go, it was mostly just walking around and watching people have fun.
I remember that.
Yeah. One of the few stories I do have of my own is just this one time I saw this kid pumping quarters into this thing to get tickets. And like, it couldn't have been fun. It was that machine where you put a quarter in, it drops down onto like a ledge that's moving back and forth. And I just remember thinking like, oh, that kid's the luckiest kid in the world because his grandparents were there just handing him quarter after quarter after quarter. But, a couple of years ago, I was listening to I listened to a lot of gaming related podcasts, and I remember I was thinking about it, and I heard one of the hosts of a podcast I was listening to, they mentioned how there was a place online you could find arcade ambiance, just like an audio file of just the noise of an arcade. And it's like a switch was flipped in my brain. I was like, that sounds like the greatest thing in the entire world. I would love to have that. So of course I've downloaded that and I've put it on while I'm doing stuff at home, but it made me feel really nostalgic for the arcade. This thing that I didn't really get to experience much myself, but I started watching like documentaries about the arcade. I started, looking up old arcade games. That actually provoked me to start. I built my own arcade cabinet a few months later.
Nice.
So I spent, the better part of a year building this cabinet that I've got a computer running MAME on it. So I've got, I can play any arcade game I want. But that got me just really, really excited about arcade stuff. So I thought, I'm already a podcaster. I've probably got some extra time here and there. So I started going out and trying to find other people's stories. So I go to places like Reddit, I post on Twitter, I post on Facebook, and I ask people, hey, if anybody has any stories of going to the arcade, it could be something as simple as just, there was that time you were at the arcade and you watched some people get a high score, or maybe like you had a rivalry with another player, or there was a birthday party you went to where everybody was going crazy, or whatever. Some of the stories I get are like a sentence long, and I'd like longer stories, but hey, I'll take whatever I can get. And so I take people's stories. If they send me text stories, I read them myself, or I get one of my friends to read them if I can. But I always love it when people send in stories they've recorded themselves, like Julian, you and Angelo, correct? A while back, I think in either the first or second episode.
Yeah, we did something, I think, for your first episode, and then I just recently sent you a whole bunch,
yes.
That I'd been meaning to send you for a while. I just kept forgetting. I was like, no, today is the day.
Sure. Well, yeah. And, so I love it when people send in stories they recorded themselves, because, if I'm telling a story to someone, I'm going to be a lot more expressive than if I just write it on type it out in an email or whatever. And so, I collect them. I put some arcade sounds behind it. I have some synthwave music I found as, for like the interstitial bits. And I love it. It's just like a little time capsule that people can listen to and, feel themselves transported back to this bygone era and, experience something that maybe they didn't get to, like I didn't really get to myself. So it's great to relive it through other people's memories.
Yeah, I've actually gotten emotional a couple times listening to the show because I was an arcade rat. I mean, now I wasn't always playing, but if I was at the mall or somewhere that had an arcade or even just arcade machines, that's where I'd be. Yep. Mm-hmm. So if my mom was shopping at the supermarket or something, cause I think that's another thing that maybe people who weren't around at the time don't know is that they were everywhere. So it wasn't just dedicated arcades. I mean, you could find them at convenience stores and laundromats and supermarkets and, just where have you. Bowling alleys. Oh yeah.
Bowling alleys was practically an arcade in my time.
Yeah. I saw my first Mortal Kombat fatality at a bowling alley.
Nice.
And I remember, it was Mortal Kombat 1. It was Scorpion's fatality. And my jaw actually dropped. And my friend from middle school, he looked at me and he was just like, yep. That's what this game is. And I was like, oh.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so just hearing these, these great numbers. And I love when it's, when you get some older people in who were there for the early stuff, the late 70s stuff. Cause I definitely missed out on that. I mean, obviously I wasn't born until 80, but even just the score attack, for Galaga or Space Invaders or stuff like that. That wasn't really a thing that I experienced until way later. I definitely back at Game Fellas, we would play the Namco Museum and in the store, and we would try to beat each other's scores on Galaga and stuff like that. But as far as back in the day, your King of Kong, Billy Mitchell's of the world and stuff like that, missed out on that. But I still love to hear about it and like you said, see documentaries about it. So yeah, it's a fantastic podcast. Now, you kind of answered my second question, because I was going to ask both of you, have you looked into these arcade 1-up cabinets? Because I really want one. I'm just kind of waiting for the right one, because I don't want to have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
For me, the size factor is really nice, and they're, you put them together like IKEA furniture, so it's easy to put together. I mean, obviously, they could be better.
Right. Sure.
But I was curious if either of you had looked into those, but Gabe, you probably, you don't really need it. You've got your own now.
Yeah. And I'm part of several Facebook groups and Reddit communities that are hardcore arcade people. And among those groups, everybody is incredibly negative about those. Not being as hardcore myself. I mean, I'm just in it too, just to experience whatever. I don't pass any judgment. So to me, I don't think I'm not going to buy one, but I think that, they're, for what they are, if you don't have the wherewithal or the experience or the know-how to make one yourself, I mean, hey, if you just remembered liking those games and maybe you want your kids to see what old games were like, hey, go for it. I would maybe recommend wait until they're on clearance, because they are pretty expensive when they first come out.
They are.
But, and I'll also keep in mind that they are not made with, heavy play in mind. They're really made for people who are going to buy them, play them for a couple days, and then put them in storage. So, like, if you find a display unit at the store, it's probably going to be in terrible shape. It's probably going to be all falling apart. But, you know, if you're just going to play it a little bit and then just have it sitting in your corner as a display piece, as like a piece of art, yeah, go for it. I mean, whatever makes you happy, but I would recommend waiting until they're a little bit cheaper than they are initially.
Yeah. I was really heavily eyeing the Mortal Kombat machine. And the thing that has kept me from buying it is that I don't really care for the game selection because it's Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2, and then Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I would have thrown MK1 out and done Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, and Ultimate because I actually prefer vanilla MK3 over Ultimate, and Mortal Kombat 1, it's neat to go back to it, but it is not something that you want to play for more than 5 minutes. Yeah. Where, like, the other ones, I could see myself actually sitting down and really, like memorizing all these moves again, like I did back in the day. And they have like they make these really nice stools for them because obviously they're so short. Yeah. Right. That, like, especially someone as tall as me, like, there's no way that I could just like stand up and play it. But they like, you can get like themed stools. So there's like a Mortal Kombat themed stool with like the dragon as the seat. I'm like, that's pretty okay. Cool. Yeah. Like I kind of need that, but I'm like, is there going to be a Street Fighter Alpha one? Because if there's a Street Fighter Alpha one, that's the one.
That's what I would want, is the Street Fighter one for sure.
Yeah.
Like, if I was going to do that, but
yeah,
I definitely don't have the space for something like that, though.
Yeah. I'm really lucky. We bought a house just a few years ago, my wife and I. And so we have like a whole basement that, you know, at the time wasn't really being used for anything. So yeah, I had all the space I wanted if I wanted to fill up one corner of it with a big hulking monstrosity. Cause the one that I built it's a 4-player one. So that thing is just, it's gigantic.
Nice. Yeah.
Just one piece of advice for anybody who might be picking up one of these arcade 1-up things, or just anybody who is interested in getting back into arcade games. Maybe you remember them from when you were a kid and you're getting back in now. Most arcade games aren't actually fun.
That's like, very true.
Yeah,
they're made to be played for about 2 minutes and then that's it. Like, they're incredibly difficult. And if you aren't paying money, you're probably going to enjoy it less. And also, if you're not competing with other people, you're probably going to enjoy it less. Right. A game like Gauntlet is the most fun in the world if you are with 4 friends, or 3 friends rather, and then you're putting in actual money, because there's actually stakes. If you can just push a button a whole bunch of times and put in like $100 worth of quarters, it's not fun. Like, I mean, you can just literally play as long as you want. So just, if you are interested in getting into arcade stuff, I definitely recommend it, but go in with the right expectations, because it's not going to be exactly like you remember it.
Yeah, I remember, because there was that Capcom beat 'em up bundle that came out. I think that was last year. Maybe it was earlier this year. But yeah, you know, it's like, like all of a sudden, like, the veil was lifted and I could see like the bullshit that was involved in the way these games were designed.
Yeah, for sure.
And I ended up making my own fun. So I was playing like one of the games online, for like an achievement. And I decided that like, this dude was like my rival, and it's like I had to get a better score than him. And like, I think he clued in on it too. Yeah. Cause we would just start like skipping enemies in order to get like that drop that would give you more points. And like we would be trying to get the last hit on a boss. Cause you get the last hit on a boss, then you get the boss bonus.
Yeah. Nice.
And it was just like this back and forth thing for like the whole thing. And I think I ended up just barely eking out at the very end, but that was the thing, right? Is like, cause there's like, yeah, whatever. Like, we're just going to go through this game until we beat it and get the achievement. Much. But then I was like, no, but I'm taking you down.
Yeah.
Yeah. They even have those like Neo Geo, emulator things out that you can buy on like Xbox. And some of those are pretty good. They're basically, they're just a MAME emulator. It's basically, that's all it is. I love, if I had to pick like some of my favorite old arcade games, I'd probably say they're the Neo Geo ones. I don't know why. There's just something about their style that I like a lot.
It's like real gritty and sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to them. And then like there's sprite, like the Art of Fighting sprites, I'll never get over like how huge they were. Like, it's not to the detriment of the game, I think.
Yeah.
You know, when you really want to play it seriously, but it looks so good.
Well, I even like a lot of the newer ones, like Metal Slug, like those sprites. I love the sprites in Metal Slug.
Metal Slug has amazing sprite work.
there's so much care put into all that game, like so much little quirky details. I love that shit. So
yeah. Yeah, well, Gabe, like, what else, I mean, obviously that's just a small part of what you do.
Oh, sure.
And Consumption Junction is here for whatever type of media you consume.
Okay.
So, like, what have you been up to recently?
Well, that's a good question. I've been playing some games here and there, been, watching movies and stuff. I guess I actually do have a list of games I've been playing. I've mainly been playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance lately, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 on the Switch.
How are you liking that? Because I was super excited when they announced it, and then when it came out and I started to see reviews, I was like, this might not be what I had been hoping for.
Well, I mean, it's fun, but it's not super long. And I had gotten it in the hopes that I'd be playing it with some of my friends a bit more. And I haven't really been. It's mainly just been solo while I've been at work, on breaks and such. So it's a fun game, but I don't know. There's a finite amount of content in it, and some of it is very difficult. So if you want to do all of it, it'll take you a long time. I still haven't done all the hardest challenges, but it's kind of just the same sort of thing over and over again. So
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how long I'm going to be playing it for, but I've put in a good amount of time so far.
I've heard like people have like a lot of problems with just like the loot's kind of the samey, and like you're just aiming for like extra costumes that aren't really that great, and a lot of it's like hidden behind like what people think is going to be like DLC or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard mixed things about it. Like I've heard some people like are really high on it and think I don't think anybody's really high on it. From what the biggest review I usually hear is like, yeah, it's fine.
It's good.
It's one of those. Yeah, it's acceptable. Like I don't think anybody was really expecting like an all-star 5-star unforgettable game from the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, but it is what it is. And like, if you like that sort of thing, you'll probably like that. So
yeah, like I really like grinding in games, generally speaking. So I've just been grinding nonstop for the last few days once I started getting the drops that give you like more experience and stuff. So I'm just trying to get all my, 50 characters or whatever up to level 100. So
see those numbers get bigger.
They do. They do. Yeah.
Right there with you.
For most people, I imagine it would not be very fun. But the main campaign is fun. It's just pretty short.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that like I was a little disappointed in is that, cause one of the big things that I loved about the first game was they kind of purposefully put the characters in like their worst costumes.
Okay.
Because then you would unlock like their more classic costumes as you would go. So it's like by the time that I got my like core Avengers team in like Silver Age like attire, I was like, okay, like I have achieved something here. Where then when I saw like, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but it seemed like in Ultimate Alliance 3, it's like there's a handful of extra costumes and most of them are like palette swaps. Like they're not really like noticeably different where, you compare like base level Thor with like, the final costume that you get in the first game. It's like, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Like I think each person has one additional costume and it is just a palette swap. And in some cases, it's not even a very noticeable palette swap. Like you can be Venom, who is all black, or you can be dark blue Venom. Or you can be Hawkeye, who like his like arms are purple, or you can be Hawkeye with dark purple arms instead.
Oh man.
And it's like
everybody knows that dark purple armed Hawkeye is much better than regular purple armed Hawkeye. I mean, that's just science.
Right. So the costumes have been pretty disappointing. Maybe there will be some in DLC. I don't know, but I'm still enjoying playing it.
That's good.
Yeah. Maybe if I still had a functioning Switch, I would pick that up later.
Again,
but
Julian, I'm sorry for your loss.
Get to it later.
One other thing I've been playing, actually, one thing I played once a couple days ago. I never got a chance to play PT until just recently. I didn't.
Wait, how did you manage that?
Well, so somebody made an Unreal Engine version of it.
Yes.
Oh,
so I've heard about that.
I was able to download it. I tried downloading it a few months ago, and for some reason it didn't work, but I downloaded a different version a few days ago, and it did. So I purposely never watched a video of it in the hopes that someday I would get to play it. I didn't want to ruin my first experience of it. So I got the thing. When I was done, I tested it and it worked. Then that night when I got home from work, I turned off all the lights. I put on my headset, and I have 2 monitors. I turned off my second monitor. So all that was in front of me was just the screen. And, it was terrifying. It was a lot of fun. There were a couple points where I did have to look up what I was supposed to do because I didn't even know what keys did anything on the keyboard. One of the mouse clicks zooms in a little bit, and then apparently there's one puzzle where you have to hit a specific key on the keyboard, and I didn't know that, so I was just wandering around with nothing to do, and then I looked it up, and it's like, oh, I have to press this specific key. But other than that, I tried not to look up any sort of spoilers or anything, and it was a ton of fun. It was super spooky and super atmospheric, and I wish it had become an actual game.
Yeah, I don't know if, like, I've talked about it on the show before, but I don't know if you ever happened to see the, no, I mean, cause obviously there was the Norman Reedus teaser that you would get if you, like, beat the game. Yeah. That was announcing Silent Hills, but there was actually a Tokyo Game Show trailer for Silent Hills that came out, like, the following year.
Oh.
And I highly recommend looking it up because, I mean, obviously it's just like a CG trailer, but if that's what they were going for tonally, it would have been one of the scariest games that was ever made because it was just going hard. And yeah, I would have loved to have seen what that game would have been. I'm a big Silent Hill fan. Like, I even liked Homecoming. Like, a lot of people hate Silent Hill Homecoming. I liked it.
Yeah.
Downpour was the one that was the final straw for me where I was like, no, this is not good.
Sure.
But, Konami seems to be in a spot now where they might be trying to do the smart thing where they're like, hey, we're not going to do anything with this shit, but if you guys want to, like, you can just, like, pay us licensing fees and you can do it.
Sure.
And that's really what they need to do. So maybe
they might
come out. Yeah.
Yeah. I can only make it through about 2 seconds of a PT video, and that's about it. The game starts and then I go, nope, and turn it off, like, immediately. Like, the atmosphere is just crazy. So.
Well, there's a part, where the lady, just, like, comes up for, like, I think you turn around and then when you turn back, she's there.
Yeah.
And then you wake up at the beginning of the loop. And I thought that I had died and started over.
Same here.
And so I stopped playing, and then I didn't realize that was actually, I was in another loop, and I should have kept going, and I never went back to it.
You know who actually told me about this game, Julian? My sister told me about this game, and my sister is, like, as big a coward, if not a bigger coward than I am, and she's the one that watched her husband play through it, because it was a free game on PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
And he just randomly downloaded it, and he was playing through it, and she was like, yeah, there's this game called PT, and I've never been so scared in my life. She was just like, there was this part where he turned around, there's this lady, and she just screamed at him, and I jumped so hard, and it was bullshit, and I hated it. Like, it was fun.
I wish I could have heard her say that, because I'm imagining how Sam would say that.
You know what? I'll try to get her to talk about that on the show.
Well, what else have you been up to, Gabe?
Well, I do have another podcast that I do. The Arcade Memories podcast, I only come out with really every few months. I don't really get enough submissions to do it more often than that, but, that's just kind of a side project for me. I also have a main podcast that is a tabletop gaming advice podcast. So, like, I play D&D. I've played D&D for a lot of years, and there is no shortage of D&D based podcasts on the internet, but, ours is not one that it's not us playing the game. It is my friend Jeff and I we've been playing D&D together for years. And it's us. It's a discussion based podcast where we have people send in questions, like discussion questions, typically asking, like, advice on how to run a good D&D game, ideas for, like, what to do with their character and stuff like that. So, like, they ask discussion questions and then we answer them on the show. We pose questions of our own. And then, so it's all like discussion based rather than actual play. And so, we put that out every week. It's called Inter-Party Conflict. And so that really takes up the majority of my, non-working time. So, like, every week, we're recording and then, editing and everything. And I know, like, you guys, Julian, you are very big on sound quality with this podcast. And I am as well with my own. So it definitely takes a good amount of time to make everything sound good and, keep it going.
Yeah, I there's a friend of mine who listens to the show, and she was asking, cause I spent a lot of time editing the last one? It might have been 2 episodes ago. And she was asking something about the editing process, and she was like, well, can you just like do this? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, if I didn't care, like I could just like sync it up at the beginning and just like, we could just like, I could just write down the times I need to throw the music in, and then call it a day.
Yeah.
But I can't do that. Like there's too many things that I need to control, in the show. And, that's why I've always said that we can never do a live podcast, because
Same here.
then the illusion will be shattered, because if everybody knew how much I actually stutter or say but and or like you think it's bad now? Oh, you ain't heard nothing. If you heard the actual raw version of this podcast, you would turn it off.
Yeah.
No, but I appreciate people, and I'm assuming you do yours on Skype as well.
We live close to each other, so no, we do it in person. When we have guests
I'm so
on,
jealous.
we have guests occasionally, and in that case, we use Google Hangouts actually. But
Okay.
but same difficulties. It's always a lot more work to edit when we have guests on. So I try not to have
Right.
guests very often, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Right
No,
on.
that's a cool concept for a podcast too. Like, I don't play D&D. I played like a Pathfinder campaign years ago, and that was a lot of fun. That was the only one that I ever got to play. But somehow I follow like a lot of D&D people on Tumblr.
Yep.
And a lot of them are like, people asking questions like what you get. And I'm always fascinated by the answers, just like how in depth
Sure.
it gets with like, oh, well, no, like, you want to encourage your players this way, or, don't go out to like kill them outright. You want to like nudge them like here, or if they end up like going in the wrong direction. And it's like, it's just really cool.
Yeah.
Definitely my Pathfinder DM was very kind. So she let us get away with a lot of stuff.
Sure. Yeah, no, there have definitely been times where I've been running a game and the players had an idea for something that I had no idea how to adjudicate. And in one time in particular, I was one of the lesser experienced players in the group, like everybody else. They also were very experienced, running games. And so I asked the players, what would happen in this case? And so we had to, we stopped the game for a little while. Like I had some of the players come over and like look at the notes that I had. And then we all together were like, well, I think this would happen and this and so on. And, it was a little bit embarrassing having to ask for help, but hey, it resulted in the game moving forward instead of, all right, you win. Let's go home.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also don't want to get like really frustrated where, like if the players are, they're pulling on this thread that has nothing to do with anything. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, you need to go over here. And, but they're just like hammering at this and they're not getting anywhere and getting frustrated. It's like, yeah, I can see it's a very fine line that you got to walk.
Right.
And you're telling a story at the same time.
Yeah. And something that I've come to learn, really is that, people kind of suck at dealing with people. A lot of people have, not mean to be throwing shade here, but like a lot of people have really bad social skills. And hey, myself included, I have a long way to go. I've come a long way, particularly since we started interparty conflict. But, a lot of people, when there is any sort of a disagreement, the first reaction is, all right, well, you should probably get rid of that person, cut them out of the game and kick them to the curb. And so I first started the podcast because I was reading a discussion online and everybody was like, yeah, get rid of that player. And I'm like, that should be like the last resort. You guys are hopefully friends. Hopefully they should be able to work this out. And so that got me thinking, I'm sure a lot of people have problems like that. I wonder if there's a way that we could help people get through stuff like that,
I would be remiss if I didn't pimp my or a friend of the show, John Golson's movie Zero Charisma. Which I highly recommend seeking out if you haven't seen it. And also listeners, I know I've talked about it, but if you haven't seen it yet, I think you should be able to rent it digitally now pretty much everywhere. But yeah, it's basically about like a DM who takes things too far.
Yeah. Trying
to deal with life and things happening to him, but he really just wants to DM his game. And there's a new player that kind of comes in that starts to steal his thunder. And it's really funny. And friend of the show, John Golston, he's in it. He plays, the manager of the game store. So he's only in a couple scenes, but it's really good stuff. And I believe he should be guesting on the next episode.
Oh, awesome.
So,
excellent.
I'll have to check that out.
He'll probably be Yeah, it's a very funny movie. Very, very, very fun.
So my wife works at our local library, and she's the librarian there. And so whenever I want to like watch a movie that isn't available for streaming or whatever, I can just have her buy it for the library, and then
nice,
and then I can watch it that way, or with books. But I read fewer books than movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been real bad about reading books lately, so I need to get on that. But I'm currently in the middle of a full Infinity Saga rewatch
awesome.
Of the MCU, so I'll talk more about that next episode.
Insane to me. I can't even get through one, like, a single movie, let alone an entire saga of them.
I mean, it's only 46 and plus hours, Justin. That's nothing for you. What are you talking about?
You're
like
right.
you do that like standing up, like standing upside down, or what? I don't know.
Yeah,
you do it on your head.
Something like that. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Fire Emblem, a lot of Fire Emblem, still. And here, watch this, Gabe.
Okay,
Julian, you want to know how many hours in Fire Emblem I have now?
I kind of don't, but I'm going to ask anyway. How many hours of Fire Emblem do you have now, Justin?
I have 180 hours in Fire Emblem.
Oh my!
Too
Too many hours. That's too many.
I've had
you need to cut that by like 140.
Well, I played through it once, and I was like, this game's awesome, but I missed a lot of stuff, so I played through it again with Black Eagles, which I think is what I was doing the last time I was on.
Yes.
And then I got through that playthrough, and now I'm playing Blue Lions, and I like the Blue Lions a lot. This might be my favorite of the playthroughs. So I was kind of dancing around spoilers the last episode, but there's like a time skip. Apparently, Julian was informing me that this has been kind of spoiled a lot now. So there's a time
spoiled
skip.
by Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like literally, like their E3 streams and stuff like that. Like said it outright.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah. So like, the time skip happens and that's been real great. I just got there, I think today actually. And, I love how, what's his name? Dimitri just goes full edgelord after that. Like, it's great. But yeah, so I'm taking a lot of time and doing a lot of the character, support stuff and getting those all up to A's and B's and seeing all the little interactions. And I'm gotta say, this is some really good character writing, man. Really, really good. I don't think I could tell you a single story that happened from Fates. I can't remember, but a couple characters. I remember the one girl that I married who was really funny and she was a mage, but I couldn't tell you her name for nothing. But I don't think I will ever forget the story about Bernadetta being locked in her room by her dad and or there's a story. I'm not going to spoil all the stories. You guys go find them yourselves, you slackers. But there's a story between, Ferdinand, who is this noble guy, and, Dorothea, who was my first wife, and you never forget your first. It's fantastic. Those two, man, it was really good. And then, there's a lot of different,
Good voice acting too, because I really love that first conversation where she says, "Oh no, you're right. I do hate you."
Yeah. Oh, Dorothea is fantastic. She just gives every noble in that game so much shit, and she's great. One thing that happened to me recently is I let a character die and didn't realize it.
Oh.
That was kind of funny. No, he was an asshole. His name is Lawrence. He's one of my not really a big favorite of mine. He's he's got purple hair and he's got a stupid bowl cut and he says stupid things about how good he is. But yeah, I let him die on accident. I didn't even realize it until 3 battles later. I was like, what happened to him? Oh, I think I got him killed at some point and didn't realize it. Whoops. I should probably stop skipping animations. But yeah.
Big money! Big prizes! I love it!
Wait, Justin.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but
did he
Smash TV announcer he's standing right behind me, and
don't turn around.
He won't stop smiling. But hold on. Okay, apparently the secret code phrase for this episode is nanomachine, son. That, of course, is a line from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is not the most recent Platinum game, but it's the most recent Platinum game that I've played. And as people will know, this week's Great Game Giveaway, you have a chance to win a copy of Control by Remedy or Astral Chain by Platinum. So just DM the code phrase, nanomachine, son, by 8:30 Central Time on September the 4th, because that's when we will be doing the drawing for this contest, and you may be able to win a copy of either of those games.
Nanomachine, son.
Now get out of here.
Good luck. You'll need it.
All right, sorry, Justin.
Oh, you're fine. Smash TV announcer, he waits for no man. So what can you do?
Yes.
But anyway, but yeah, I let him die. That was my bad, but I didn't really care. But anyway, like, so the overarching story in Fire Emblem is not like the greatest thing ever, but I do like how there's kind of like this huge gray area where you're not really sure who the bad guy is. Now, Julian, you played like, Black Eagles, and
yeah, I was telling you, like, off mic that there was, like, one character where I was like, this is clearly the most evil character in the game. And you were like, well, it looks like that to you on this playthrough, but that's actually not the case. And I was like, far more intrigued than even before.
It's very gray and intentionally so, and it's kind of nice. And in fact, they don't like outright spell out a lot of things. Like there's like mysteries that I'm like just now putting together, and like it's again 180 hours into the game, and I'm still figuring things out. Like I'm like, okay, all right. Like there's a mystery between a certain green-haired girl and a certain green-haired man that I figured out recently. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And you only get it, and the game never outright tells you. It never outright tells you that they're people.
I also like that you said that, because there's so many characters in this game with green hair that you like,
exactly. Yeah,
like you're not really giving anything
exactly. away. I'm doing my best to dance around it, but people who know will know, and that's how I'm rolling.
There you go.
But yeah, the character writing's just been fantastic. There's so many characters that even like ones that I'm like, I just don't like this guy. Like you said you like Felix a lot, and I was actually really cold toward him in the beginning. I was like, this guy just sucks. It's like, he just is mean towards everybody.
Like I've had very little interaction with him. I could just tell that he was like the badass swordsman, and I was like, okay, I need a badass swordsman on my team. So I was trying to woo him over.
Yeah.
But I think I was focusing just on the stats that you have to build, and I was like, well, that seems very inefficient, because like every character has like different stats, and it takes so long to build your stats to those levels. But then I realized that you can just cheese it by giving them gifts constantly. I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, I didn't know that for a while either, but I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's how you get everybody. But yeah, like I was real cold towards Felix for a while, but like he actually kind of has like a nice story arc, and like he has like some really nice interactions with like Bernadetta of all people, which is hilarious. Bernadetta is like the shut-in character, and like the very first like character interaction he has, like she does this thing where she like basically she thinks he's going to attack her, and she like basically does some weird thing and steals his sword, and he's like intrigued by the technique that she used and has to know how she did that. So like it's just little cute interactions. I really like this game. And like it has that whole like numbers going up thing, but I think the biggest thing and why I keep playing it over and over is like there's just like you set a goal for each character. You're like, okay, you're going to do this. I'm going to get you to this place, and you can see the end game. And like I just have to make the bars go up, Julian. I just have to make the bars go up. And I have to
especially because you're actually instructing them. So it's like they come to you and they're like, well, you know what, Teach? Like, I think that I should really focus on healing magic. And you're like, okay. And then it's like every time that I teach is like healing magic, like just hit those books. And then it's like you see them get better. It's like, there you go. And then that's what I needed to do.
Yeah, and then after the time skip, like they start teaching you. But yeah, it's still fantastic. Like I love Fire Emblem.
Now, Gabe, like just based on like the stage select discussions, like this sounds like it's right up your alley. Like, has this been on your radar yet?
I've never played a Fire Emblem game. Like I've heard great things about them, but I don't know. It's just never really appealed to me, and I don't know. Someday I'll probably pick one up, but I just never have. Not on purpose. Just never happened.
If you like Final Fantasy Tactics,
I do.
I feel like you will like this game a lot.
Okay.
It has a lot of similarities. It's grid-based combat, with like, I'm trying to think, basically grid-based combat, permadeath.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do permadeath. And in fact, the permadeath is very soft in this game, like, because of there's like a time rewind thing that you can use.
Oh, okay.
To go backwards.
As long as you notice it, of course.
As long as you notice it and don't do like I did.
Right.
But yeah, I think you would. I think you would like this a lot. And there's even like kind of job classes. Like each character gets a specific job. You're aiming towards, like, okay, I'm going to get this guy to do a Pegasus Knight or whatever. Like looking ahead and planning ahead is really important.
Yeah.
Positioning is really, like, that's one thing that I like about Fire Emblem over Final Fantasy Tactics is that positioning is important. So it's like, even just, okay, like, I'm going to move this character over here to attack, but they're a ranged character, but I don't want them to just be standing out by themselves. So I'm going to position them next to this other character. And so then when either of them get attacked, like, they're going to get a bonus to their evasion and their defense, but then also them fighting side by side makes their relationship improve, which then increases that overall exponentially throughout the game.
And also, like, you can
also ties into the character interactions, like, between battles.
Also, strategically, you can do things like put your tank out in front and then put your ranged character behind them and kind of create a wall behind them to where the enemy can't get to you as easily. It's real fun.
How hard would you say it is? The reason I ask is because I got Wargroove a few months ago. And
Wargroove is insanely hard.
Yeah, I liked it, but it was too hard. I got like maybe 4 missions in.
It is not Wargroove, trust me.
Okay.
I got about the same amount of missions into Wargroove, and Wargroove pissed me off because, like, the commander system in Wargroove is not very good, because, like, you just, like, make one wrong move, and then your commander dies, and that's game. And start all over. This isn't that. I mean, it does have that, hey, if your commander dies, but, like, dude, like, your main character is so overpowered in this game by the end of it. Like, you're just thrashing folks. There are times
I will say that this was one of the few times, because I'm definitely not that guy, but this was one of the few games where I was like, kind of wish that I was playing this on hard, because I'm kind of rolling through it on normal.
I'm actually considering, like, maybe after this playthrough, playing some more.
No, Justin, after this playthrough, you're done.
We'll see. I mean, well, there hasn't been a lot of new releases come out, so, like,
this is fair.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting on some new stuff to come out. But I did play one other game that I'd like to talk about, and it's free on Game Pass, and that's why I decided to try it. And I've been wanting to try it for a long time. It's called Slay the Spire. You ever heard of this?
I have
heard about it multiple times, and I have no idea what it is.
Okay. So it's a roguelike card-based deck building game. But it's kind of like an RPG dungeon crawl.
This is like the Mad Libs for like video game genre.
I'm describing it quite poorly, but that's fine. So basically you get like a real basic deck. And like one will be like, you'll get like 4 attack cards and 4 defense cards. And then every time you start out, you use those to beat the enemies and they die, obviously. And when they die, they give you another card. So you're constantly just going through this thing and building up your deck and putting new cards in there. And then like you get these relics from bosses that like do stuff like, one will like, hey, now at the end of your turn, you don't discard your hand anymore. Or, hey, now, you gain this many hit points after every battle, or so on and so forth. And like, you just start like creating these weird card combos. It's a great game for me because I love like Magic the Gathering and card games and stuff. And this actually reminds me of drafting in Magic the Gathering. Like a lot, actually, because there's this level of variance to everything. You never know quite what cards you're gonna get, and sometimes, like, it's best to not take a card It's weird. It's a really cool game though. I had a lot of fun with it. In fact, I just like made a complete run with one of the characters today. I was kind of proud of myself because it's not easy. Like you die a lot, but it's pretty fun. And it's free on Game Pass. So if it sounds interesting to you, again, I'm probably not doing it the most justice in the world, but give it a shot. So yeah.
That was sounding more and more familiar the more you said about it. And I just checked. It is on my Steam wish list already. Yeah. So somebody told me about it and it does sound up my alley. I do really like deck building games.
I was going to say, if you like deck building games, this is really cool, especially because you seem to like RPGs and stuff.
Yeah.
I think you would like this. It has like that dungeon crawl aspect. And like I said, the deck building stuff and the level of variance, like every now and then you just get like some bad luck, but you kind of go, that was kind of fun though. And I'll do another one. And you just keep going. It has this just one more run, addiction to it. I don't get that with roguelikes. Usually, like, I'm the type of dude with a roguelike, I'll play through it once and die, and I'm like, well, that's the game for me, cause fuck this. But this one, I'm like, no, I want to see if I can hit this different archetype, cause like, sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, I was doing really good when I built up all my defense and like, use that to attack people, which is a weird thing to say, but if you played the game, I guess you would understand.
Sure.
But like, then I did that one time. I was like, oh, this archetype is really working out. I have all this defense all the time. Nobody can hit me ever. And then all of a sudden I ran into this enemy that was just like, oh, that's cute. That's real cute. That doesn't work here, friend. And they just slaughtered me. I was like, well, that's that run. Guess I need to balance it out a little bit more. But yeah, real fun game. Having a real good time with that. I'm probably going to play it some more with the other. There's like 3 different decks you can do. There's a warrior type character. There's kind of this magic user type guy. And then there's like a rogue type guy, like a thief character. And they're all like, they all get different style of cards and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Like it's really interesting. I like it a lot.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. I've been increasingly impressed with, the Game Pass offerings, like the stuff they've been adding. And, like I told you, like during the break, they just added Devil May Cry 5 to it, which is a game that I intended on purchasing at some point this year. I was going to wait for like a sale, but I was like, oh, well, cool.
Why not?
Yeah.
Especially because I was looking for something to play, because as listeners have probably figured out, something happened, since the last episode. I was thoroughly enjoying Fire Emblem Three Houses. It could have possibly knocked, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night off of my Game of the Year, as the top of my Game of the Year list, had I been able to complete it.
Right.
I had played it for about 25 hours and I was loving it. Digging, like, I honestly, like, I know I've heard some people say like, oh, well, I don't like this character or that character in my class. Mm-hmm. I actually loved all of my characters in the Black Eagles, even like Caspar and Ferdinand, who are kind of considered to be like, not as popular.
Caspar is actually super fun, and I would say the weakest one is what's Edelgard's like right hand man?
Hubert. Oh, I love Hubert.
Hubert's like, but I kind of like him too. But like he's kind of like the weakest character I would say, because he's just like almost pure evil. Like like you just get these creepy vibes, which is kind of fun. But
well, and also I realized partway through that I think that's how most of my coworkers perceive me, is the way that like the other students look at Hubert, where they're just like don't want to talk to him, they're afraid to be around him, and it's not because I'm mean. I just like I'm not social. Like I'm just there to work. But yeah, like my guys were just wrecking house. Like Caspar was like, I think the advanced class for brawler, and just he'd gotten to the point where people weren't hitting him, and then he was critting on every single turn.
Yep.
And then Bernadetta was just like annihilating people with her bow, and I was like, this is all fantastic. And then I went ahead and looked it up, because I guess it's only 2 parts, right, Justin? There's part 1 and part 2, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was going to be a super long game when part 1 was like, man, I'm like almost 30 hours into this game and it's only part 1. How long is this? Yeah, no, there's only 2 parts.
And that's where I was. So I went ahead and looked it up, because I was like, well, when does the time skip happen? And I was a month away from the time skip, and I was playing at night, because what I would do, I would play it in bed at night in portable mode until the battery would run out, and then I would charge it, and then the next day I would like play it on the TV, or depending, I would just like pull it off the dock and then play it again, portable, whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to put it in sleep mode and, I saved my game, put it in sleep mode, put it on the dock, and then tomorrow I'm going to get to the time skip. I can't wait because I want to see like how these characters evolve over that 5-year period. Go back the next day, take it off the dock. Switch no worky.
Oh.
I tried every solution that I could find online for a Switch that does not turn on when you turn it on. Mm-hmm. Nothing worked. So my assumption is that there's something wrong with the battery.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a fairly common thing, but I guess not common enough. It almost feels like, cause I had 2 Xbox 360s Red Ring, but that was a well documented,
I had the same
problem.
I had the same thing with my Xbox 360. It red ringed on me twice. Yeah.
Yeah. But the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1, which again, I had 2 of those each crap out on me over the years. They both had fundamental issues that Sony never acknowledged.
Right.
That seems to be what this is, where it seems to be like a, fairly widespread problem, but not something that Nintendo is actually going to do anything about, but also not widespread enough to where it's being reported on.
Sure.
Yeah. And I don't know, again, I just have like the worst luck with hardware.
Out of curiosity, what went wrong with your PlayStation 2? Cause I might have had the same thing. Did you just get disk read error all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same thing happen with my first one. I can't remember what it was, and then, I remember I bought another one. I went to trade it in and, way later on down the line when this thing is long since been extinct. And I remember they opened up the disc tray and they're like, you hear that noise it's making? And it makes like a small, like rattle of some sort. Mm-hmm. It's barely noticeable. And they're like, this thing's about to die. I was like, they're like, yeah, we won't take this. I was like, I did not know that. Well, I guess I'll enjoy it while I have it.
I called it the Sony cancer, and we actually had, like back at Game Fellas, there were particular games that we would test PlayStation 1s and PlayStation 2s with, that if the systems were starting to develop the Sony cancer, they would diagnose it earlier than other stuff. It was like Madden 97 and Theme Hospital for PlayStation 1, and then PlayStation 2 it was Twisted Metal Black and Zone of the Enders. Those games would start to skip and stutter before other things would if the system was starting to fail. But yeah, Switch is dead. I tried everything that I could, and it actually, I was going to go on another big long rant about the Switch, but honestly, I think it just boils down to my bad luck with hardware.
Yeah. It might be.
Now I will say this, because, like I had said, I hadn't, last episode, I had not turned on my Switch since last December.
Right.
And, that was the first time that I had these problems. And I was like, well, I'm going on a trip. I may as well start a 3DS game so that I at least have some hours in it, so that I'm not just starting a brand new game on a plane, because that's no fun.
Right.
So I get my 3DS and I'm like, I haven't played this since November, but, and I know that I should probably, I should charge this before I play it. Let me just see if I can turn it on. Turn it on, still got almost a full battery.
Yep.
And I was like, motherfucker. So I popped in Dragon Quest VII and I started to play that. And then I was like, but I still want Fire Emblem. So I popped in Fire Emblem Conquest, which I thought that I hadn't started, but I'd actually put 6 hours into it. Started a battle and then lost somebody almost immediately. And I was like, I don't think I can do this right now. So I'm probably going to end up playing Dragon Quest VII, which is a fool's errand because that game is notoriously long. But, I've been wanting to play something and I want something meaty for the plane ride. But yeah, I have decided that I'm going to sell most of my Switch games, but I'm not giving up on the Switch because I think I am going to look into sending it off to Nintendo to get repaired.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not replacing it. I'm not buying a new one. But maybe if the repair cost is $100 or something like that, that's a happy medium. But I've already braced myself for the fact that I'm probably losing that save file for Fire Emblem.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to start another house when when and if I get this Switch back.
Yeah, I would go, either Blue Lions, which I've been enjoying them. But I did enjoy the Golden Deer as well. And they actually have what I would almost consider probably the canon run of the game, because the last boss is probably actually the real last boss. It's actually the last boss of their run actually pertains to the early scenes, the very opening scene. Like, it's the only thing in the game that does. Like, it's weird. And also they have probably the best music in the game because it's hard to talk about without spoiling it, but yeah, they have like some of the best music in the game. Like I said, God Shattering Star is the final boss music for the Golden Deer, and God, that song is so good.
I appreciate you giving me the advice of playing one of the other 2 houses in the game if I'm not playing the one that I already started, Justin.
Yeah.
That is
yeah.
A+ advice.
I'm trying. It's hard to tell you which one, man. You gotta make your own decisions in life. But I mean, I can go through some real crazy lists right now of which one you should play. I mean, but yeah.
I think we've probably talked enough about Fire Emblem Three Houses for like the year.
Yeah, probably.
At least until we get to like end of the, like,
oh yeah, it's gonna come back on Game of the Year. I promise that.
Well, I might pick it up. I'll see if see what I feel about in the next few weeks when I'm done with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and go from there.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Like, I was thoroughly enjoying it, and it's one of those games where, especially for me, because the way the game is set up, because you're a professor in this, like basically like a war academy. Mm-hmm. And so the way it's laid out is that you have a mission at the end of each month, but then the rest of the month, like there's weeks when you're teaching, and then you have your off days every Sunday, and you determine how you want to spend that time.
Okay.
And so I would get into the situation where it's like, well, I have to do a whole month in one shot.
Sure.
Right? So it's like, so one day I'm just spending like half an hour just running around the whole school, talking to everybody and getting quests. And then I'm teaching, and then another day I'm just doing maybe a side quest battle, or I'm fishing or something like that. Or I'm having them rest because you have to worry about their morale and stuff like that.
Okay.
Then I'm teaching again, and then there's the battle. And the battle is going to be like 30, 45 minutes depending on the fight. So it's like, I was playing this in like 2.5 hour chunks because that was like for me, like the optimum way to play. I really hated having to stop like mid-month.
Okay.
Just because it's that type of game where it's like, I really want to like, just like see everything that happens in this month before I save the game and move on.
Sure.
But obviously you can play it in small chunks.
Yeah.
It's really, it's structured very well for that. It was just for me, I was very compelled to like, no, I need to see what happens at the end of the month.
Right. Yeah. Expert advice, never rest, Julian. For your next playthrough, never rest. Always just explore again and just go and do like the meals for all the characters that have their morale low. Like it's more efficient. You usually have like an abundance of like meal options and stuff to do. And, the resting only restores like 2 bars, whereas doing the meal will restore the full thing. So it's but then again, I am kind of playing on New Game Plus, so I can do a little bit more. So maybe resting is good in your first playthrough. Damn.
Well, does anybody have anything else before we move on to the final segment?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I do.
All right. Well, I guess that means that there's nothing left to do but to lower the cage and step into the ring for a video game cage match.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest spectacle on earth. This will be one hellacious ride tonight. This is a 15-foot high steel cage, ladies and gentlemen. Who will triumph? Who will prevail? And who will realize their dream?
And folks, this one comes to us from Superstep, who has, as he's admitted, a bunch of jokey submissions, but hey, it's what we got to work with. This episode, we are pitting Killer Instinct Gold versus Clayfighter 63 1/3, which, if people didn't notice last time, I had said 33 1/3 many times and then had to edit it after the fact. I was thinking of the Naked Gun joke, which is what they were going for, but obviously they did something different.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you even in the edit called it 64 and a third.
Did I? No. Oh, I hope not. That would be real embarrassing.
I think so. I could be wrong, but whatever the case.
I'll check the tape on that. Yes, this is a battle of plastic people versus clay people, because two N64 exclusive fighting games on a system what not known for fighting games. Now, Gabe, I know you said that you've caught up on the episodes recently, but it's a good time when we have a guest on, and also just in case we have new listeners, like, the way the cage match works is we pit these games against each other in the steel cage, and we get as arbitrary as we want. So I'm gonna go first on this. I freaking loved Killer Instinct 1. I was obsessed with Killer Instinct 1. I remember getting the Donkey Kong Country Nintendo Power VHS tape in the mail.
I remember that. Yes. That was awesome.
At the very end of the tape was them walking into a room and they were playing Killer Instinct on the Nintendo 64. Was it? Yeah. Sorry. Well, it would have been the prototype N64 architecture. And it was just like a split second of footage. I must have watched that 100 times. Just that one little bit. Oh, I think Gabe, are you actually fishing out the actual VHS tape?
It's not that one, but I have the Star Fox 64 one.
Nice.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. That's fantastic. So I played it a bunch in the arcade, and then I bought the Super Nintendo version, the one that came with the Killer Cuts CD, which I still have to this day. Well, I actually rebought it to get the CD again because I had lost it. And so I bought a new copy of the game that came with the CD because I needed it, because the music is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Having said all that, Killer Instinct Gold took all of my interest in Killer Instinct away in one fell swoop.
Wow.
There was something, I don't know what it was, but I played it once in the arcade. Well, that was Killer Instinct 2. And I was like, I don't like this. And then I played Killer Instinct Gold, and I was like, I super don't like this. Therefore, Clayfighter 63 and a third, a game that I have never played, wins.
Wow. Wow, that is very arbitrary, but I respect it.
Because at least Clayfighter seemed to still be doing what Clayfighter did, and I did like the first Clayfighter game. Thought it was, pretty nifty. So I was like, okay, this seems like more Clayfighter. It seems like it's hitting all those buttons and checking all those boxes, and Killer Instinct Gold just did absolutely nothing for me, just across every level. So, no. It's a no for me.
I see. All right. Well, so I went a little bit of a different approach. So I haven't actually played either of these games. I'm like you. I played the first Killer Instinct and really liked it. So I'm kind of judging based on the franchises a little bit. I feel this is a tough one to call. In pro wrestling, to compare the two, this would be kind of your solid mid-card act, kind of like your Mr. Perfect, or a Cesaro of today. Those guys that are pretty good, but they're probably never going to be top level for whatever reason. Just bad luck. There's a lot of different reasons in wrestling. And then, you put them up against, Bastion Booger. If you don't know who Bastion Booger is, Google that image, and I'm sorry.
Well, does the fact that Booger Man is in Clayfighter affect things at all for you, Justin?
No, it's still pretty gross. I just don't really find Clayfighter that funny. Clayfighter's always been kind of this running joke in the fighting game community for the most part. It's not a very good video game at all.
It's not.
Yeah.
And Killer Instinct is fine. Gold, from what I did look up the reviews for this, on GameSpot. Let's see. Killer Instinct Gold got a 7 point something, and Clayfighter 63 and a third. I was just curious. Got a 3.1.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So not good. But, I just kind of envision the entrances, Clayfighter just comes out and they got their stupid announcer guy, like, and they're like, "Bad Mr. Frosty," or whatever that guy sounded like. He was fucking awful. I hated him. But then like Killer Instinct comes out and they have just like fucking Black Orchid's music hits, because that song's pretty cool. Especially, like, surprisingly, I actually looked up the soundtrack because I was curious what Black Orchid's theme sounded like in the 64 version. This game has surprisingly good music for the Nintendo 64. Like, surprisingly good. Like, Black Orchid's theme is really cool. TJ Combo's theme's pretty funny. I will get to that later. And, like, I think Saber was pretty cool, had pretty good music. Like, definitely look that up if you're into video game music. It's actually pretty solid. But then like the bell rings and it's C to the O to the MBO. Like Killer Instinct's just gonna hit just a godlike combo. They're never gonna get any offense in. Clayfighter can't fight back. How are they gonna win this match? So it's like a total jobber matchup to me. And I think Killer Instinct Gold wins because of that. I think it's just a blowout here, but I mean, it's not up to me. So Gabe, who do you think wins this matchup?
Well, real quick, I just want to say, way to bring game quality into the discussion, Justin.
That's what I do. I was just curious. I just had to know. I had to know because I never played them. I was like really super curious as to what they got in review scores. I was just really curious. Now everybody knows.
Yeah. Well, in keeping with the theme, I have also never really played either of these games. I was never big into fighters. We did have the first Killer Instinct because we bought my brother and I bought a Super Nintendo near the end of its run, and it came with Killer Instinct. But in Killer Instinct, because I was never good at fighters, the one character that I was good at was Cinder, because he had a really, really easy move. It was just like, I think it was like forward attack or something, and you would just get a few hits. And so that was the only good part of that game, in my opinion. And that character is not in Killer Instinct Gold, unless I missed something. And also, speaking of characters, in Clayfighter 63 1/3, you've got Earthworm Jim and Booger Man. So if I haven't really played the games, I'm just going to go off of what characters I know are in them. And got to go with, especially with Booger Man, got to go with Booger Man.
Yeah, but then you have to listen to that announcer say Booger Man.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have to play it. I just have to know it's there.
All right. That's fair. It's a fair.
Okay, yeah. So that's got Clayfighter winning from the Nerds Without Pants. But as always, we are not the be all and end all, because our lovely listeners, in addition to booking the matches, also are our referees. So we'll hop on over to pixelbit.com first. And I'll start off with San Andreas, who says, "You're kidding, right? Killer Instinct Gold is easily the best of these two mediocre N64 fighting games. I never did see KI as anything more than an off-brand Mortal Kombat, but I needed something to play on N64 other than Super Mario 64. It wasn't anywhere on the level of Virtua Fighter or Tekken, but it was something to play. It was a testament to how dry the N64 library was that Clayfighter 63 1/3 got a cover story in Nintendo Power. It kind of reminded me of how Nintendo was like, hey, we don't have Final Fantasy VII on N64, but we have Quest 64, which is just as good. Anyway, Killer Instinct Gold was okay, and they even had the best 3D backgrounds in a fighting game at the time. The game itself just didn't make use of them. All right?
That's exactly my point. Killer Instinct is a solid mid-card act, and they're up against, like, the Minotaur or some shit. It's not gonna be good. These are deep wrestling cuts today. I'm sorry.
Super deep. I don't even know some of these.
They're just classic joke acts. Go ahead and look them up sometime. You'll get a kick out of it.
Well, that ties it up. But Justin, why don't you take Super Step?
Super Step says, I was in fact joking. However, I would also go with Killer Instinct Gold. That's what I'd say if I was basing this on anything close to an objective, meaningful opinion. Clayfighter 64 1/3 never got my brother into such a fury he broke one of my controllers, and I appreciate the unique aesthetic, so my vote goes to Clayfighter 64 1/3. Or 63 1/3.
Yeah.
Whichever.
Oh, this is getting spicy.
It is getting spicy.
All right, Gabe. Well, why don't you pick up Jamie Alston? He's the next one on the list.
All right. Jamie says, I've never played either game, so I'm going to side with Clayfighter 63 1/3 for its odd numbering in the title name. I appreciate that sense of humor. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Oh, Justin.
I mean,
Justin.
I mean, hey, listen, some people think Duke the Dumpster Drosy is funny. I disagree, but, well, okay, wait, what am I saying? Actually, he is pretty fucking hilarious when you look back on it, so.
You're just gonna throw out even more obscure wrestlers as we go, aren't you? Like that.
I wish I had more. That's actually where it ends.
Fair enough. Let's see. Bookie simply says, Clayfighter, Clayfighter, come on, fight them if you dare. Ooh, Clayfighter, Clayfighter, hit 'em, smack 'em, they don't care. Yes.
So they mean Killer Instinct Gold, obviously, is what.
Oh, yes. That is clearly what he's putting down there.
Yep.
Yes.
But all I have to say to that is C to the O to the MBO. Filled with power, baby. Yeah.
The theme song to Clayfighter 1 was so revolutionary at the time that Nintendo Power actually did a 2-page spread on the singing group that did the song.
Wow, Nintendo Power would.
They were quite cute. Teenage Julian really enjoyed the picture of that ensemble.
Okay, understandable.
No more information is needed.
No.
Tell me more. I'm interested. Keep going.
Justin, once again, Transmit 2033 has a brief but hard-hitting take on this.
Oh, yeah. I read it and laughed. He says, neither. They can both burn in hell. And fair enough.
Somehow I read that as Samuel L. Jackson in, was it The Client?
A Few Good Men, I believe.
No. That's not that one. But it's one.
Born
it's
on
the one
4th
where
of July?
No. It's the one where he's being defended.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I knew that. I knew what you were talking about.
Somehow that movie came out like almost 30 years ago, but he looks older there than he does now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's aging in reverse.
Yes. Gabe, we've got a beefy one here from Xrian, if you don't mind, sir.
I don't mind. I'm up to the challenge. So Xrian says,
Excellent.
Never really played either, so I'll scientifically figure this out. Can Clay actually die? Not that I'm aware of. Though Killer Instinct has that dead skeleton guy, so he's dead but still moving. You can't hurt Clay by cutting it, I think. Clay can hurt you, as shown by Clayface in the Batman animated series. Thumbs up from me. Batman would definitely be able to take on both Clay and a skeleton because of Batman reasons. So I say Batman drops down from the roof, takes a steel chair, and hits both for a surprising finale that ends in a disqualification. Skeleton Man is mad that he lost his shot at the title, so attacks the ref. Security escorts Skeleton Man from the premises. Bret Hart's music plays, and he shows up and says he's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And he's actually a Highlander, and there can be only one.
Yep.
Cuts off Batman's head and is victorious. He then challenges any other Highlanders, then the Ghostbusters music starts. While looking at the ramp, they jump in from behind the crowd and say Bret Hart has been a ghost all along, and proceed to vacuum him up. Winner, the crowd for just experiencing the greatest crossover since Avengers. Okay, Clayman is still in the ring and therefore is the winner. So, Clayfighter? ?
Justin, see what you have wrought.
For a full explanation of what just happened there, please see the previous, well, it'll be 2 episodes from now, episode of Clickbait Update called 25 Worst Movie Endings Fixed.
But also a Square Roots episode from like 4 episodes ago, because he also got in that I was a ghost the whole time.
Yes.
So that is a deep cut that tickles me so.
Indeed.
Well done, Xrian.
Yes, you nailed it. You fucking nailed it, dude.
Oh, that might be comment of the week.
Indeed. Oh, it is.
I'm glad it's at the end because then nobody has to follow that.
Well, we've got a couple on Twitter.
My mistake. Sorry.
Speaking of which, Justin, why don't you take Jeff S. over on Twitter at Jestoff?
He says, which game has skeleton pirates, ice aliens, Amazonian queens, German werewolves, and Terminators? Clayfighters? Didn't think so. Spinal could take this fight by himself. And that is, obviously, he's talking about not Clayfighter. He is talking about Killer Instinct Gold.
Yes.
He's made the right choice here. But he did forget boxers with the last name of the main game mechanic. So don't forget that. It's very important.
Yeah, I was actually real good with TJ combo in the first game.
TJ combo is sweet.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Justin, I know you're rooting for him, but Clayfighter actually kind of stomped a mud hole in Killer Instinct Gold in this match. You know, sometimes the underdog just, you know, does some things that you don't suspect. And I think X-Ring has the right of it, is the fact that you just can't hurt Clay.
Yeah.
So, you know, Killer Instinct was coming out here with combo, but like, it wasn't doing anything to Clayfighter 63 and a third, and eventually Killer Instinct just like got tired and went home.
Yeah, well, sometimes Doink the Clown wins. I mean, he had to put him over somehow.
Yeah, it happens every once in a while.
It does.
All right, so that's got that match done and dusted. But as always, you know, there's always another bout on the horizon. And this is actually a new entry from San Andreas, who has not submitted a matchup before, I don't believe. So next episode, squaring off in the steel cage, gentlemen, is Quest 64 versus Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, dear.
Nice.
I look forward to seeing what happens there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and Justin, why don't you remind us what we're going to be doing for Stage Select next week? Or next episode, rather.
I would like to know what video game franchise people would, franchises, I guess, multiple, if you can think of more than one, that people would think would make fun dating simulators.
Yes.
That aren't already dating simulators.
So, we will want, those comments for Stage Select and your submissions for, video game cage match. And if you want to enter for the Great Game Giveaway, we will need all of that by 8:30 Central Time on September the 4th. Again, you can go to pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 159. Hit us up on Twitter at NWPcast and DM us there, or go to facebook.com/nerdswithoutpantspodcast. We're going to wrap up. Before we do that, Gabe, why don't you let the people know where they can find you and what you've got? I mean, you know, you've got a couple podcasts, but, what you've got lined up.
Sure. So the easiest way to reach me would probably be, I'll say, contact me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. It's the email address I'm using for the Arcade Memories podcast. You can check out that podcast on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/arcadememories. I need to find better hosting though, because as of putting up the last episode, it cut off the first episode because I haven't upgraded to a premium account yet. So that may change at some point in the future, but, if anybody has any stories they would like to contribute to a future episode, send them to, once again, arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. I also have my other podcast, Interparty Conflict. I'm on Twitter. Whenever I'm on Twitter, it's usually under that podcast's Twitter account, which is at InPartyConflict. Other than that, you know, I'm out there. So I don't know where I'm going with this sentence. Somebody save me.
Well, and I would say, listeners, even if you don't have an arcade memory for Gabe, like, definitely hit him up and let him know, what you thought of him on the show, because we would definitely like to have him back.
I would love to come back.
Indeed.
Yes. And, Justin, what's going on at the bottom of the page?
All right, on Clickbait Update, we are back to our normal episode-y stuffs. I'm very sorry that we're not going to do another scene thing. That takes a long time to put together. So, we'll be talking about strange hobbies from around the world, such as extreme ironing.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a thing. I'm actually really looking forward to talking about that. And then we're going to talk about... I got a question. Okay. If Batman's parents are dead, right? How did we get Batman? How did Batman happen if both of his parents are dead, Julian?
They were killed after he was born, Justin.
Well, Julian, we're going to be talking about questions that were asked on Yahoo Answers. And that may or may not be one of them. So look forward to that.
Okay. I was worried about you for a second there, but... Excellent. Well, look forward to that, everybody, and look forward to another episode in a couple weeks. We're going to go ahead and head out. Gabe, thanks again for being on the show. This has been a delight.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we're able to match up schedules.
Yes, a lot of fun. We've already said where they can find you. Justin, where can they find you?
You can find me at Tyrone_Swift, or you can find my other podcast, at Clickbait Update.
Yes, and you can find me at Julian_Titus. You can find Patrick at SomeBoss. Go tweet at him and tell him how much you miss him. And again, you can find the show at NWPcast. If you enjoy this show, consider liking, or not liking, well, I mean, you already like it. Consider rating it and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts. I had somebody actually ask if they could review us elsewhere, to which I said yes, but just screenshot me a review so that I can read it on the air, because Apple is the only place that I look.
Right.
And yeah, and also if you listen to Arcade Memories, go give them a review as well, because they're
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, they could use that. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode. So for myself, Justin, and a special thanks to Gabe. Thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, internet. Goodbye.
Peace.
Wings of silver, birds of steel.